Welcome, dear disciples. How are you all doing? So, today we have brought another story for you. And trust me, you're not ready for this mind-bending tale of ghosts, monsters, and a hero who bluffs his way into becoming a legendary master. Our story begins with Ji Yuan, an ordinary guy who accidentally shifts a mystical chess piece in the woods and wakes up reincarnated into a frail beggar's body, trapped in a haunted mountain temple. Talk about a rough start. But things take a wild turn when a terrifying 100-year-old mystic tiger named Lu Shanjun shows up. Instead of eating everyone, the giant beast bows in deep respect, mistaking our clever hero for an all-powerful immortal expert. From that moment on, the shockwaves don't stop. A many-eyed specter breaks out of a prison well, sparking an epic battle with ghostly night rangers that will leave everyone completely frozen in terror. Martial artists are left jaw-dropped as the fearsome tiger bows to a beggar, and a massive spectral leaf dragon illuminates the night sky. Just when Ji Yuan thinks he can finally enjoy a quiet life, a legendary sword in tent post reveals a secret map. A beauty snake demon rises from the village pond, and the entire supernatural world is left completely shocked by his unfathomable power. What is this insane hidden talent? How far can one man fake it until he makes it? To know what happens next, watch this complete video. Our story begins at the Mount Bullhead campsite, guys, where a group of friends are busy setting up their tents by the river. One of them calls out, "Ji Yuan, are you free? Could you go pick up some firewood?" Ji Yuan, an ordinary company worker, happily agrees. Walking deep into the woods, he marvels at the massive ancient trees, glad to finally escape the city's heavy air pollution. Guys, I'm wondering why he alone came to get firewood. Suddenly, he stops dead in his tracks. Right there in the middle of the forest, he spots a stone table with an ancient weichi board and an old wood-cutting axe nearby. He steps closer, noticing the rusty axe, and realizes it looks exactly like the one from the famous ancient legend written by Renfong. He chuckles, thinking it's impossible. Somebody probably just forgot to take it home with them. But, come on man, it can be haunted, just leave it and go. He realizes the white stones on the board are in terrible danger of being taken off, played in a completely bizarre way. Drawn by an inexplicable urge, his hand slowly reaches into the wooden bowl of white stones. Guys, I'm telling you, our hero is an idiot who's trying to play alone in this jungle. He murmurs, "If I do this," and with a sharp click, he places a stone down, shifting the entire game. Smiling, he steps back, thinking it all makes sense now, and decides to take a picture for his friends to see. But guys, story's gonna get interesting from here. He realizes his iPhone is completely dead, even though he clearly remembers it was at 80% just a minute ago. He heads back to the river to charge it, but the entire campsite is just gone. He nervously asks, "Is this a prank? I told you guys, this place is haunted, but what can we do?" Looking around the empty shore, someone calls out, "Is somebody over there?" Two police officers emerge from the brush. Ji Yuan asks if they've seen his campsite, but the officer replies that nobody has used this site for a while. It's been barred to search for a missing person. He asked, "A missing person? Look, I told you guys something's going to happen." The officer stares at him and says, "Yep, we've searched for well over 3 weeks already for some young fellow named Ji Yuan." Ji Yuan is completely stunned. He shouts, "That's my name." The officers immediately step forward, asking who he came up here with. Suddenly, with a heavy thud, Ji Yuan collapses to the ground. The officers panic, shouting for backup. In the next scene, Ji Yuan finds himself in a hospital bed. He weakly wonders, "What is happening to me?" Breathing through an oxygen mask, his vision blurs as he desperately searches for the policeman. The doctors are frantically trying to save him. Ji Yuan's mind races, wondering if that ancient board in the forest was actually the legendary board his grandfather told stories about. Guys, now he is realizing it. Great. The heart monitor flatlines. The doctor sighs, noting his vitals are fading, mourning that he's only 24. With a thunderous rumble, a massive lightning bolt strikes an old, ruined temple in the mountains. Inside, Ji Yuan is lying motionless on the cold stone floor, crying out in his mind that it hurts. He's trapped in a beggar's body beneath a crumbling stone statue, desperately thinking, "Is there anybody here?" He is out of the frying pan and straight into the fire. Unable to move, or even open his eyes, he pleads silently for anyone to help him. The heavy rain begins to pour down outside the abandoned temple, echoing through the ruins. Hearing the steady pitter-patter of the rain, Ji Yuan realizes something incredible. The sound is mapping out his surroundings like a mental picture. He thinks, what a fascinating feeling. Even though he can't see, he knows he's in some kind of old, abandoned temple in the mountains. Look, I'm telling you guys, he is very sharp now, but still he's an idiot to play in woods alone. He vaguely remembers the hospital and the doctor's words, but realizes he's definitely still alive. He knows it has to do with that mysterious board. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps echoes outside. A group of men in straw hats and raincoats rush toward the temple to take shelter. Ji Yuan senses them approaching and feels a sudden surge of hope. With a heavy step and an exhausted huff, a man in ancient boots enters the temple. The man, named Zhang Shilin, takes off his straw hat, dripping wet from the storm, and complains about the terrible weather. He orders his men, Lu Quan and Li Gui, to bring their cargo inside and make a warm fire. Lighting a match, Sherlin thanks heaven for this temple, noting they'd have nowhere else to shelter in Mount Bullhip. Suddenly, he pauses, sensing something nearby. Holding a small flame, Sherlin spots the frail beggar lying on the ground, calling out, "Who's there?" Ji Yuan thought, "Mount Bullhip? Isn't this Mount Bullhead?" His men gather around. Sherlin notes the beggar is barely breathing and probably won't make it far in these dangerous mountains. Listening to them, Ji Yuan is utterly confused, wondering why they are speaking in such a strange, ancient dialect. Sherlin tells his men to move the fire closer to the beggar, so he doesn't freeze to death. Soon, a pot of water is bubbling merrily over the crackling flames. The men sit around the warm fire. Little Dong nervously asks if they really have to spend the night here, mentioning that he heard from the villagers of the Water OD village that it's not safe around here. Sherlin just smiles confidently, taking a calm sip from his bowl. He points out that if this frail beggar has survived here, there's nothing for them to fear. Meanwhile, Ji Yuan listens quietly, wondering what they mean by Mount Bullhip and big pests. Little Dong is terrified, insisting there are monsters on the mountain. Sherlin laughs, telling Little Dong to man up, as it's perfectly normal to have a few large beasts in a forest this huge. As the rain continues to pour, Sherlin tells him to stop scaring himself and just get a good night's sleep. Sherlin kneels beside Ji Yuan, gently offering him a bowl of warm water, apologizing that it's all they can provide. Ji Yuan eagerly gulps it down, finally getting some life-saving hydration. Hearing them discuss his slim chances of survival, and noting their ancient clothes, Ji Yuan pieces it together. He realizes he really has time traveled. Suddenly, Little Dong shouts out that the rain has stopped. Sherlin looks out into the night sky, deciding it's far too risky to traverse the mountains in the dark, so they'll have to stay the night. Ji Yuan lies quietly, finding a bit of comfort in the thought that at least he has people by his side if he dies. But guys, nobody could have imagined this. A strange man suddenly appears at the temple entrance, cheerfully greeting them. The newcomer, wearing neat scholar robes, claims he got separated from his friends in the rain and followed their firelight, asking if he can stay with them so he isn't alone in the mountains. Sherlin, being a welcoming leader, immediately invites him over to the fire, assuring him they aren't bandits. Trust me, guys, this is going to be interesting. Ji Yuan's heightened senses pick up a chilling detail. He never heard any footsteps approaching. As the scholar smiles warmly, Ji Yuan breaks into a cold sweat, realizing there is something very, very wrong with this man. To understand how Ji Yuan got into this mess, we have to look back at the legend of Wang Ji, a woodcutter from the Jin dynasty. While collecting firewood in the Stone Room Mountains, Wang Ji saw a few kids playing weiqi in the forest and sat down to watch them play. One of the kids handed him a mysterious snack that looked like a date. He sucked on it and never felt hungry again. After a while, one of the kids finally looked up and asked him, "Why are you still here?" When Wang Ji stood up to look behind his back, he found the handle of his axe had rotted away, the blade completely rusted, and upon returning to his home, he found nothing but ruins. Ji Yuan lay motionless on the floor, but his mind was racing. He thought, someone mentioned there are monsters on the mountain, and now comes a mysterious scholar in the middle of the night. This cannot be a coincidence. Meanwhile, the peddlers gathered around the warm fire. One of them asked, "What is your name? Can you tell us more about yourself?" The scholar smiled politely and replied, "My name is Lu Xing. I am from Water God Village, and I am a student of the Sheng Prefecture's Green Pine School. I was traveling back to the village with my friends." Sherlin nodded with a welcoming smile, saying, "I see. Help yourself to some food. Look, I'm telling you guys, this scholar is throwing up so many red flags, it's basically a carnival." Ji Yuan, peeking through half-closed eyes, thought, "This guy's an impostor. If it wasn't for my exceptional hearing, he might even have fooled me. However, this entire facade shows that he doesn't plan on ending us yet. Plus, it doesn't seem like he has noticed me." Suddenly, Lu Xing raised a finger as if remembering something important. "All right, I found something that might be valuable to you guys. I'm telling you this as a gesture of gratitude." Intrigued, Sherlin asked, "Something valuable?" Lu Xing proudly explained, "It is a decade-old Titan ginseng." He continued, "I have heard the inside story about this ginseng from mountaineers who frequent our village. The ginseng has 9 leaves and red flowers growing on top. Most importantly, its stem is tied with 3 strands of little red ribbons. This is the native method, passed down by a clever mountaineer leader, to prevent the ginseng from escaping. If it weren't for the fear of hurting the ginseng, I would have dug it up myself." The men's eyes widened with greed. One peddler exclaimed, "Sherlin, let's go get it. If what he says is true, the ginseng is invaluable." Another leaned in eagerly, asking, "Sir, where can we get the Titan ginseng?" Sweating profusely, Yi Yuan panicked. He thought, "This is bad. It's a trap." Lu Xing pointed out into the dark night. "It isn't far from where I took shelter from the rain. It should be a 30-minute journey from here. If you really want to get it, we should go before dawn." Sherlin hesitated. "Isn't it dangerous to travel now? It is dark outside, and the road is slippery." Lu Xing chimed in with his experience. "You probably don't know this, but the mountaineers always hunt before dawn. The ginseng is currently in bloom. If you wait any longer, you might miss your only chance. Convinced, Sherlin nodded. I see. It makes sense. The other men volunteered eagerly, insisting they were quick on their feet and should get moving. Ji Yuan squeezed his eyes shut, desperately thinking, no, don't go with him. After this, Sherlin made a decision. Very well, but there is no need for everyone to go. Old man Jean Dong, the two of you can go with Mr. Liu. The rest of US should stay here to look after the stuff. Watch your step on the slippery roads. The others nodded, assuring him they had it handled. Sherlin offered a burning torch to the scholar. You too, Mr. Liu. Take a torch with you. But Lu Xing nervously waved his hands, refusing. There is no need for that. I am worried that the torch might singe my clothes. You can keep it. As the trio headed out into the dark, Sherlin warned them to be careful. They called back, telling him not to worry and that they would be back soon. Left on the cold stone floor, Ji Yuan struggled helplessly. He thought, if something happens to these peddlers, I will be next. Damn it, why can't I speak? Unable to move, Ji Yuan let out a loud groan. Sherlin turned around in surprise as a man pointed out, Sherlin, something is happening to this beggar. The men rushed over, pinning him down. One noted he was covered in sweat and asked if he was having a seizure. Another yelled to hold him down and put a branch in his mouth so he wouldn't bite his own tongue. Ji Yuan screamed his mind, no, don't put the filthy branch in my mouth. Another peddler muttered grimly that the beggar wouldn't survive the night and they should prepare to bury him. With a sharp hiss and a heavy thud, they forced a thick branch between Ji Yuan's teeth. A peddler sighed, I suppose so. After all, we will be coming here again. We shouldn't leave his corpse lying around. Just then, a deafening roar echoed through the sky, scattering the birds into the night. Ji Yuan, still gagging on the wood, thought, are you kidding me? A fierce wind swept through the temple, making the flames dance wildly. A startled peddler yelled, what was that? Another answered with a trembling voice, the roar of a tiger. Sherlin went pale with terror. It's the big pest. Does that mean that Dong and Old Man Jean are? A sudden gust of wind blew out a nearby oil lamp. Sherlin tried to keep calm. It sounded far away. They should be fine. Be on guard, everyone. We won't be sleeping tonight. Suddenly, with a soft sliding sound, the beggar shifted against the wall. A peddler holding a heavy cleaver jumped back in complete shock. Ji Yuan sat up, the branch still locked in his jaw. He thought, that roar cured my paralysis. Everything was a blurry mess. The peddler yelled, Sherlin, I think the beggar is awake. Ji Yuan rubbed his head, thinking, why is everything so fuzzy? What is wrong with my eyes? Forget it. At least I am not completely blind. Sherlin gripped his large blade tightly and commanded, leave him be. Removing the branch from his mouth, Ji Yuan sighed. I am too weak, and I'm feeling really dizzy. But guys, this is where the story gets interesting. Footsteps echoed from outside. Someone yelled from the darkness, Sherlin. Little Dong sprinted into the temple, out of breath and terrified. A peddler pointed and shouted, it's Dong. Dong is back. Dong collapsed onto the floor, panting heavily. The men surrounded him. Sherlin demanded, Dong, why are you alone? Where's Old Man Jean and the scholar? Did you hear the big pest roar just now? Dong gasped. Old Man Jean is with the scholar. Dong looked absolutely distressed. The ginseng was on a slope. We had just gotten it when we heard the roar. It caused them to fall down the slope out of shock. Sherlin grabbed Dong by the shoulders in a panic. What? They fell down the slope? Are they all right? How high was it? Dong replied quickly, it wasn't that high. The scholar is fine. But Old Man Jean sprained his ankle. That is why I came back to ask for help. Wasting no time, Sherlin rallied the men. What are we waiting for? Let's go. Li Gui, you are coming with me. Lu Quan, stay here to keep an eye on the stuff. Let's go. Ji Yuan stared intently at the young man. He thought he has Dong's voice. But I didn't hear the sound of footsteps when he came back. What happens next will completely shock you guys. Ji Yuan noticed a faint and unnatural aura surrounding Dong's body. He thought in sheer disbelief. How could they not notice? He is no longer human. Putting the pieces together, Ji Yuan thought. Dong appeared after the roar. Could it be? No, I can't let them go with him. Sherlin is the leader. He can't die. If he dies, we won't stand a chance. Unaware of the danger, Sherlin urged, come on, lead the way, Dong. Wait. Ji Yuan's voice pierced the silence. The group stopped dead in their tracks, looking back in surprise. Ji Yuan desperately pointed at the young man. Sherlin, something is wrong with Dong. You can't go with him. Dong slowly turned around, his eyes glowing with a sinister, blinding light. One peddler yelled, asking the beggar what he was talking about. Dong mechanically stated, Sherlin, we have to go now. Old Man Jean and the scholar are still waiting for us. Sherlin said, all right. Refusing to back down, Ji Yuan screamed, stop right there. He delivered the crushing truth. Dong is already dead. The entire group froze, a chill running down their spines. Dong's ghostly face turned toward Sherlin. He asked, Sherlin, don't listen to this wretched beggar. I'm standing right here, am I not? Sherlin gripped his torch, his face pale with dread. He stuttered, asking if Dong was really fine. Ji Yuan quickly explained. He is a ghost puppet. He is trying to lure you to the tiger like what the scholar named Liu was trying to do. If you go with him, you'll be doomed. Dong stepped forward, mimicking confusion. A ghost puppet. Sherlin, don't believe him. Old man Jean is still waiting for us. Now, honestly, anyone would panic here. Trusting his gut, Sherlin swung his blazing torch aggressively at Dong, roaring, "Stay away." The moment the flames made contact, Dong's physical form instantly dissipated into a swirling, ghostly mist. The men recoiled in sheer terror. One of them screamed, "It is a ghost." "What the hell? Guys, I think they just pooped in their pants." Sherlin bellowed orders at the top of his lungs. "Get into the temple. Fall back. Arm yourselves." In the next scene, the men were huddled inside around the fire. They knelt on the ground, panting heavily, gripping their large cleavers tightly. Ji Yuan sat among them, catching his breath. Sherlin turned to Ji Yuan, completely shaken. He stuttered, trying to speak, but Ji Yuan immediately put a finger to his lips, whispering, "Shh." But guys, the real twist hasn't even started yet. Heavy, terrifying footsteps crunched against the grass right outside the temple doors. Sweat rolled down Ji Yuan's face as he muttered, "It's here." Outside the abandoned temple, the wind howled as a massive shadow crept up the dirt path. Ji Yuan stared into the darkness, his heart racing as he thought to himself, "Is it an ordinary tiger or a mystic tiger?" Suddenly, with a deafening roar that shook the very air, the massive beast revealed itself in the moonlight. Yuen gulpet nervously, wondering, "Can a few of us take it on?" Judging by the heavy thud of its footsteps, this tiger is absolutely huge. Inside the temple, the group huddled on the floor in sheer terror. Ji Yuan observed his trembling companions, reasoning, given the sheer power of its roar and the incident with the ghost puppet earlier, this definitely isn't an ordinary tiger. He sighed inwardly. With me half blind, these cowards are no match for an ordinary beast, let alone a mystic one. They'd probably wet their pants. The monstrous tiger, Lu Shanjun, glared at them, its golden eyes glowing with a fierce, almost human intelligence. It demanded angrily, "I've never interfered in your business, nor set foot in this temple. Why are you helping them?" Ji Yuan stood his ground, he thought. "I'll fade away either way, so I'd rather give a shot," he decided. He replied the tiger, "It was because there was nothing between us that I stayed out of the incident with the ghost puppet. But Zhang Sherlin has a pure heart, and I owe him a favor for saving my life. I won't just stand aside and watch him be destroyed." The mystic beast leaned in, studying Ji Yuan intently. "I haven't met you before," the tiger growled softly, "but I know you have been weak since the day you arrived a month ago. How did you manage to survive?" "Look, friends, this is where having a good poker face saves your life." Ji Yuan thought quickly. Is this why the tiger dared not to set foot in this temple? Perhaps this beggar was no ordinary man. He smirked internally. Now, the mystic tiger must be incredulous that the dying beggar survived, because I was reincarnated into his body. Leaning back casually against the cold stone, Ji Yuan reasoned, "If I use this to my advantage, I might just be able to get out of this alive." He spoke aloud, his tone completely detached. "It isn't that much of a secret. It's ridiculous, even. I knew that my time was up, and just as I had given up all hope, I reached an epiphany and survived." The tiger's eyes widened as it recalled a massive, blinding lightning strike that had obliterated the area days ago. It realized in profound awe. So this was the place where the thunder struck that day. Looking back at the calm, seated figure, Lu Shanjun concluded, even though he might look like a beggar, he must be quite powerful to be able to reverse his own fate. The tiger's mind raced. How many trials and tribulations have I endured to turn into a mystic beast? This is a rare opportunity. I must get him to share some advice. Lu Shanjun bowed its massive head in deep respect. "Sir, please enlighten me. I've been cultivating in these mountains for 100 years, yet I couldn't advance. If you be so kind as to teach me a thing or two, I, Lu Shanjun, will be eternally grateful." Ji Yuan maintained his stoic expression, but internally he was celebrating. "It worked," he cheered, "but it's so awkward to see a giant beast being so respectful." Ji Yuan kept his cool. He decided, "I have to stand my ground and see if I can get any useful information out of it." Staring right into the beast's glowing eyes, he asked coldly, "Lu Shanjun, how many humans have you consumed?" The tiger froze, heavy sweat beading on its striped forehead. It panicked. How am I supposed to answer him? A single drop of cold sweat rolled down Lu Shanjun's cheek. The tension in the night air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Suddenly, a translucent, ghostly figure materialized beside the massive tiger. Mr. Ghost Consultant appeared with a soft, ethereal glow, causing the tiger to let out a sharp huff of surprise. The tiger turned to the ghostly scholar and whispered desperately, "You heard him. Tell me how I should answer that to win his help." It offered a high-stakes deal. "If your reply is proven useful, I promise to release your soul." The ghost consultant agreed eagerly. "I'll try my best." Meanwhile, totally unaware of the ghostly interaction, Ji Yuan observed the tiger's long silence and thought, it's really obsessed with cultivation." The ghost consultant carefully analyzed the situation. "He was unconscious when I reached the temple, and he's now standing up for Sherlin. I can tell that he's someone who values honor and truth. It's best not to deceive him." Taking the spirit's advice, Lu Shanjun looked back at Ji Yuan. "To be honest, The beast confessed heavily. In order to overcome my inability to advance further, I had no choice but to consume humans. I've taken 53 lives so far. It quickly defended itself. To me, consuming humans is no different from what it's like for humans to eat animals. I don't hunt the defenseless. I hunt out of necessity, and I don't hunt during the day unless I am disturbed. Zhang Shilin and his companions were completely paralyzed with shock. Oh my god. One of them trembled in sheer terror. He consumed 53 humans. Guys, I'm 100% sure they just ruined those trousers again. Ji Yuan actually commended the beast's bluntness. Lu Shanjun, I applaud you for your honesty. Most monsters wouldn't be able to speak so truthfully, but you didn't disappoint. But guys, Ji Yuan was sweating bullets internally. He thought, I have to make sure that he doesn't keep this up. Pushing his luck, he challenged the tiger. Do you think that humans are more nourishing just because we're paragons? The giant beast lowered its head and asked its spirit advisor, what do you think? The ghost consultant replied nervously, patience, I'm thinking. Just then, the ghost consultant's face lit up with a brilliant idea. Tell me. The ghost leaned in close to the tiger's massive ear. All you need to do is... The tiger questioned, so there's no right answer? And I should answer truthfully to keep my answers consistent. The ghost nodded with absolute confidence. Yes, trust me. The tiger spoke up, its deep voice echoing across the courtyard. Sir, that's an interesting question. I've lived in Mount Bullhip since the day I turned into a mystic beast. I've rarely seen other monsters, so I can't answer on their behalf. It added thoughtfully, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think mortal flesh is indeed more nourishing. Yi Yuan smiled knowingly. It turned the question around just like I wanted, he thought. I'll show you how it's done in the 21st century. He explained smoothly. It's often said that humans are paragons that are desired by all creatures. But humans are also creatures with the most complex emotions. The resentment in our hearts is addictive to monsters. Ji Yuan continued, painting a dark, vivid picture. What you thought was nourishment is actually a slow-acting poison that hinders your advancement. Over time, you'll turn feral and eventually lose your sanity. This is the path that leads to self-destruction. The tiger's eyes widened in profound realization. My craving has indeed grown stronger by the day, it thought in awe. If I couldn't see the problem myself, what more for others? He's indeed an expert to be able to see the bigger picture. Desperate, it pleaded. Is there any way to fix this? Ji Yuan realized this was the turning point. This is a crucial moment, he told himself. He said aloud, from what I've heard, you mostly hunt out of necessity. Among monsters, it's rather noteworthy that you are able to restrain your urge. It's probably because of your principles that I was spared. Lu Shanjun lowered its head humbly. I wouldn't dare. The ghost consultant wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, thinking, thank goodness I didn't attack this beggar at the time. Ji Yuan sat gracefully, speaking with the absolute authority of an immortal master. The solution isn't as simple as just refraining from your urges, but the principle isn't complex. The foundation of cultivation is all about keeping the body, mind, and spirit righteous. He knew he had to drive the point home. It has to be compelling enough to convince it, he told himself. The way of the righteous is to take from the excess and replenish the insufficient, Ji Yuan declared with mystical flair. But the way of the sinful is to take from the insufficient and offer to the excess. This is what I comprehended during my epiphany, and it's also the answer to your problem. A small campfire crackled quietly as Ji Yuan delivered his final words. Lu Shanjun, it was by fate that we met, hence this is my parting advice. Internally, however, he prayed desperately, I wonder how it'll react. With a heavy, terrifying scraping sound, the massive tiger suddenly shifted its stance, digging its colossal claws deep into the grass. Ji Yuan's heart leaped right into his throat. Nonsense, he panicked. I must have overdone it. It's over. The sheer force of the tiger's sudden movement sent a powerful gust of wind blasting into the temple, scattering the fire and blowing Ji Yuan completely onto his back. The majestic beast stepped forward into the crumbling doorway, its golden eyes piercing through the dark as dead leaves swirled wildly around its massive frame. Inside, Ji Yuan and Zhang Shilin's group sat completely frozen, surrounded by the scattered embers of their fire, looking incredibly small before the towering creature. Ji Yuan watched nervously, bathed in the warm light of the fire, bracing himself for the absolute worst. But guys, nobody could have imagined this. Instead of attacking, the giant tiger sat up on its hind legs, bringing its front paws together in a deep, deeply respectful bow. I'll forever be grateful for your advice, it rumbled sincerely. Turning away, the tiger exhaled a magical breath, and with a soft flash of light, the ghost consultant's translucent body appeared before it. Scholar, the tiger said warmly, I'm releasing your soul as promised. You're free to go. The ghost consultant smiled radiantly, finally at peace. The scholar dropped to his knees, bowing deeply as his spiritual form began to gently disperse into the air, finally moving on to the afterlife. Lu Shanjun turned its massive back to the temple. I'll take my leave now. Farewell, sir, it called out respectfully to Ji Yuan. As the majestic beast finally disappeared into the night, Ji Yuan slumped against the cold stone floor, letting out a massive breath of relief. Phew, it's finally over, he thought, completely exhausted but alive. The night sky stretched calmly over the abandoned mountain temple, a stark contrast to the absolute chaos that had just unfolded inside. Inside, the terrifying tension finally broke. Zhang Shilin, drenched in cold sweat, stuttered nervously and asked if the mystic tiger was really gone. Ji Yuan was completely drained. He slumped against the wall, panting heavily as the men rushed to his side, asking, "Master, are you all right?" In a total panic to help, one of the men started forcefully pouring water down Ji Yuan's throat. He desperately pushed them away, thinking, "Can't you see that I've had enough? Take it away." Coughing and wheezing, Ji Yuan weakly cried out, "Funny how I didn't die in the hands of the mystic tiger, but almost choked to death in yours." Overwhelmed with gratitude, the entire group immediately dropped to their knees, bowing their heads to the floor. "Thank you, Master. Thank you for saving us," they cried. Ji Yuan, clearly uncomfortable with the worship, urged them, "Please get up. Don't stay on your knees." He then noticed their confused, lingering looks. Knowing what they were thinking, he said, "You must be wondering why I didn't act sooner." Now, honestly, anyone would panic here, but Ji Yuan masterfully kept up his bluff. He explained that the tiger's resurrection process couldn't be interrupted. He smoothly added, "When the ghost puppet showed up, I was at a critical moment and couldn't move." Selling the lie completely, he sighed heavily and closed his eyes. "In order to save all of you, I depleted my cultivation to get out of that predicament. In my current condition, it's a miracle that I could save all of you." He then gave them a stern warning to ensure their future survival. "Be on guard from now on," he instructed. "If you come across scholars or beautiful women in the forest late at night, you should know that something is wrong." Zhang Shilin bowed and said, "Thank you for the warning." He also firmly requested they stop calling him master, preferring the title sir. The men quickly agreed and rushed to prepare a warm straw mat for him to rest, knowing everyone was completely exhausted from the night's terrors. The next morning, the bright sun rose quietly over the ruined temple. The peddlers had already packed their heavy bags and were fully prepared to depart. They gently called out to the sleeping Ji Yuan, "Mr. J, we're about to depart. What about you?" "Sir." But Ji Yuan, completely lost in a deep, oblivious slumber, just angrily swatted his hand in the air and mumbled, "Keep your voice down. Go away. Don't disturb my sleep. Look, I'm telling you guys, never talk in your sleep when your ride is about to leave." Zhang Shilin sighed, assuming they had overstayed their welcome. "Since that's what he wants, let's take our leave." Wanting to respect the great master's wishes, the men tiptoed out of the doorway, whispering to walk silently and not wake him up. And just like that, they left him completely behind as the golden morning sun illuminated the mountain path. Sometime later, a little wet nose twitched at the temple entrance. A sneaky wild fox hopped inside, its eyes fixed on the sleeping beggar and his leftover supplies. Just as the fox crept up to the food bag, Ji Yuan suddenly let out a massive yawn. The poor fox jumped out of its fur in sheer terror. Stretching his arms, Ji Yuan happily sighed. What a nice sleep. Meanwhile, the startled fox bolted out the door like a streak of lightning. But his cheerful smile vanished instantly as he looked around the totally empty room. "Huh? Where's everybody? Where did they go?" Completely forgetting his sleepy mumbles, he furiously yelled, "Damn it. How could he just leave me here? Guys, I think he's a lazy ass." Just then, from the corner of his eye, he noticed a small-tied sack resting in the hay. Chewing gratefully on a dry steamed bun, he found a tiny silver lining to his terrible situation. "At least they left me some food," he muttered. Suddenly, the heavy thud of multiple footsteps echoed aggressively from the path outside. Ji Yuan quickly ducked down, clutching his food bag in full panic mode. He thought, no way. Is this temple some kind of hub? Why are there people coming here every day? Outside, a brand new group of travelers approached. Among them were imposing martial artists, and their stern leader pointed out the temple, ordering the group to take a break there. A black crow cawed ominously from the roof as the heavily armed group marched straight up the temple steps. Inside, the cold ashes of yesterday's fire still lay scattered on the stone floor. Yin Fei, the tall swordsman, sharply inspected the scene. The water god villagers were right, he noted. Travelers often pass through this place, but it's better to stay alert. Behind him, the tired grunt carriers dropped their massive baggage sacks with a heavy thud. Yin Fei stepped further into the shadowed hall, his hand resting cautiously on his sheathed sword. And he immediately spotted Ji Yuan hiding in a corner. "A beggar? Hey beggar, are you alone?" Ji Yuan instantly noticed their deep, controlled breathing, realizing these weren't ordinary peddlers. Playing it safe, he simply replied, "Yes, I'm alone." The beautiful martial artist, Luo Ningxuang, stepped forward, looking genuinely surprised. "There's a feral tiger on this mountain. You weren't afraid to come here alone." Knowing he desperately needed an escort out of this terrifying mountain, Ji Yuan put on his best pathetic act. He sighed tragically, explaining that he overslept and his companions abandoned him. He claimed his eyesight was terrible, leaving him helpless. Hearing this, The brash Lu Qingfeng crossed his arms and smirked with total confidence. You're lucky. Once we've gotten rid of the big pest, we'll bring you with us. But Ji Yuan's eyes widened in sheer, unadulterated horror. The big pest, he thought, his blood running cold. Are they talking about Lu Shanjun? Trying to keep his voice steady, Ji Yuan nervously asked what exactly they were planning to do on mountain. Lu Chengfeng proudly laughed, declaring that they had taken a government mission to eliminate the feral tiger with their mighty chivalrous spirit. The whole group stood tall, striking a heroic pose, brimming with absolute, unbreakable confidence. We've come to Water God Village to eliminate evil, they announced. Trust me, guys, arrogance can be a deadly thing. Ji Yuan broke into a massive cold sweat, his face pale with dread, as he stared at the proud martial artists. He thought to himself in absolute disbelief, these people have a death wish. From the dark corner of the room, muffled animal sounds echoed out. The beggar, Ji Yuan, listened closely and thought, I can hear a pig and a sheep in the sack. Ji Yuan quietly observed the group of martial artists resting around the crackling campfire. He thought to himself, judging by their appearances, they don't seem like bad people. I'll keep observing. But what if they really have the ability to subdue Lu Shanjun? Meanwhile, the martial artists were deep in conversation. One of the men noted that the townspeople claimed the tiger had ended many lives over a long time. Yan Fei scoffed, dismissing the rumors entirely, stating it was ridiculous that some thought it was an evil spirit, especially since people were still traveling across the mountain. Overhearing this, Ji Yuan pondered their true strength. They brought a lot of weapons, but could mortal martial arts experts really perform crazy acrobatics? He wondered, do they have any spells or talismans with them? After all, their target's a mystic tiger. But guys, these warriors were brimming with overconfidence. Lu Chengfeng puffed out his chest and declared with a loud laugh, if it's really an evil spirit, I wouldn't mind a little adventure. His companion laughed, right along with him, completely unaware of the actual danger. Hearing their arrogance, Ji Yuan let out a long, exhausted sigh. He slumped back against the pillar, knowing full well that there really were terrifying monsters on this mountain. Just then, deciding he had to intervene, Ji Yuan let out a loud, intentional cough to grab their attention. Startled by the sudden sound, the entire group turned their heads, locking their eyes onto the ragged beggar sitting in the shadows. Ji Yuan spoke up calmly. He told them he really respected them for volunteering to hunt the tiger, but he was curious to know more. He advised them that they needed a solid plan before going to battle, asking directly, do you guys have a plan? Yan Fei looked at him closely, thinking that this beggar spoke with such confidence and eloquence that he didn't sound like an ordinary man at all. Remembering his senior's advice not to judge a book by its cover, Yan Fei explained their strategy. They heard the man-eating tiger only appeared in the middle of the night. So, when the time came, they would use the pig and sheep as bait, and once the beast took the bait, they'd launch a surprise ambush. Look, I'm telling you guys, anyone would facepalm at this strategy. Ji Yuan's eyes widened in sheer disbelief. He panicked internally. That's it? Their plans to confront a head-on? No other tricks? No wonder they look so confident. They don't know what they're walking into. He realized he had to talk some sense into them, but carefully to avoid opposition. Trying to keep it light, Ji Yuan laughed nervously. Very well, but I have a small concern, he began. He asked them what would happen if the tiger wasn't just an ordinary beast, but a monster turned into a mystic beast. He questioned if they would actually be able to handle it. The warriors murmured in confusion, questioning if monsters were even real. Suddenly, Luo Ningxuang recalled something important and pointed out that someone in Water God Village had actually said the exact same thing. But guys, Lu Qingfeng wasn't having any of it. He pointed an angry finger at Ji Yuan and shouted furiously, Stop making up stories, you beggar. Remaining completely calm, Ji Yuan raised his hands defensively with a gentle smile. He said he knew nobody liked unsolicited advice, but since they were all chivalrous heroes who could do more for the world, it would be a tragic shame to lose their lives there. He simply couldn't help but speak up. Yan Fei stepped in, politely appreciating the advice. However, he firmly stated that since they had taken on the mission, they should try their best. He added that if anything went wrong, they would only have themselves to blame. His companion agreed passionately, shouting that they were doing this for fame and couldn't just give up halfway, as that would be entirely humiliating. Ji Yuan's expression dropped completely. He broke into a cold sweat, realizing he had somehow motivated them instead. Defeated, he thought, forget it, it's useless. He could only hope that the warning he had given Lu Shanjun the other night would actually work. Later that night, the bright moon hung high in the dark sky. A sharp voice called out from the courtyard, It's time. Yan Fei confidently stepped forward and commanded his team, Let's go. Before heading out, Lu Chengfeng turned back with a cocky grin. He told the beggar to wait for their good news, promising to safely guide him out of the mountain once they returned. In response, Ji Yuan stared at him intently and offered one final, cryptic piece of advice. He warned, Warrior Lu, if you encounter great danger, say that you know Mr. Ji. Keep that in mind. Lu Qingfeng stood there utterly confused, wondering what the beggar could possibly mean by that. But before he could ask, Yan Fei called out for him to keep up and he hurried after his friends. Out in the chilling forest, heavy boots stepped firmly onto the dark dirt path. Yin Fei stopped and declared they would set the trap right there. He ordered the team to place the pig and sheep down and get ready for the ambush. The frightened pig and sheep were tied securely to the base of a large tree, serving as the perfect midnight bait. High above the ground, Yin Fei and the rest of the martial artists hid themselves completely within the thick branches, keeping a close watch on the bait below. Time ticked by slowly as a flock of birds fluttered through the quiet night sky. Exhausted from waiting, Luo Ningxuang let out a soft yawn and whispered, wondering if the tiger was actually coming or not. But suddenly, a sharp rustling sound made her jump in pure shock. A massive, terrifying gust of wind violently ripped through the trees, blowing leaves everywhere. The tied-up pig and sheep panicked frantically, squealing and thrashing against their ropes as the impending danger closed in. Hiding in the branches, Yin Fei was struck with sudden dread as the intense wind whipped past his face. Then, with a heavy, menacing thud, a colossal clawed paw slammed onto the forest floor. The giant mystic tiger, Lu Shanjun, stepped out from the shadows, easily towering over the helpless livestock. Up in the trees, Lu Chengfeng completely lost his cool. He stared wide-eyed in absolute terror, trembling as he realized just how incredibly massive this beast truly was. The majestic tiger stood imposingly next to the tiny pig, exhaling thick clouds of breath from its jaws, its glowing golden eyes piercing through the dark. Peeking from behind a tree trunk, Yin Fei was sweating profusely. He was completely baffled, wondering nervously why the beast wasn't immediately eating the bait. But guys, what they didn't know was that the tiger was fully aware of them. Lu Shanjun smirked mischievously. He said, "Interesting. Mortal warriors? Since all of you came to court death, then this shouldn't go against his advice." As the terrifying aura of the beast washed over them, the arrogant martial artists finally realized the horrific truth. Staring down at the impossible creature, they collectively panicked, realizing that this tiger was actually a true mystic beast. The beast bared its massive fangs. With a chilling breath of mist, it growled, "Since you're here, let's have some fun." The mystic tiger suddenly pounced forward with a deafening roar, plunging straight toward Yin Fei. Yin Fei immediately retaliated. He swung his heavy blade, unleashing a powerful, sweeping blue slash to intercept the beast. But guys, the beast's power was simply overwhelming. With a heavy impact, Yin Fei's sword shattered into pieces. He was violently thrown backward, a devastating mark left on his chest as his strength rapidly faded. With a heavy crash, Yin Fei plummeted deep into the surrounding bushes, completely incapacitated. Seeing his leader fall, another leaped into the air, gripping his staff tightly. He shouted in sheer anger, "You monster!" He swung his weapon with all his might, but the tiger effortlessly deflected the strike with a sharp crack of its massive tail. The sheer force of the parry sent him flying backward, slamming brutally into the trunk of a giant tree. Lu Qingfeng glared desperately back at the beast. He shouted, "We'll fight you to the end." Just then, a memory flashed in his mind. He remembered the mysterious beggar's warning back at the temple. "Warrior Lu, if you encounter great danger, say that you know Mr. G. Keep that in mind." Standing face to face with the towering, inescapable predator, Lu Chengfeng knew this was his absolute last hope. Just as Tiger was going to devour him with nothing left to lose, he screamed at the top of his lungs, "We know Mr. G." At those words, the beast abruptly paused. It muttered. Mr. G leaned in close, its glowing golden eye locking onto the terrified martial artist. It asked, "You been to the mountain temple?" Lu Chengfeng stuttered in absolute fear. "Yes." Desperate to survive, Lu Chengfeng frantically explained. "The beggar in the temple advised us not to confront you. He said that you turned into a mystic beast, but we didn't listen. He told us to mention Mr. G if we encountered great danger." The tiger loomed over him, exhaling a cloud of cold mist, silently processing the martial artist's desperate plea. Meanwhile, Luo Ningxuang collapsed on the forest floor, clutching her arms in pure terror as she and Lu Chengfeng anxiously awaited their fate. The tiger's eye narrowed thoughtfully. It finally spoke. "Since it's for Mr. G, I'll think about it. But I don't know if you're lying to me. Let's go to the temple and ask him." Back at the rundown temple, Ji Yuan was casually leaning against a crumbling wall, calmly chewing on a leaf. He sighed to himself. Will they be lucky enough to succeed? I hope so. Suddenly, his eyes darted toward the entrance. He sensed their approach and thought, they're back. Something isn't right. There's another. Guys, this is where the story gets incredibly intense. Through the doorway stumbled the heavily injured martial artists, holding each other up, and right behind them, shadowing their every step, was the massive mystic tiger itself. Ji Yuan froze, thinking that's... Total panic immediately set in. Ji Yuan's eyes widened in sheer horror as he mentally screamed, "Idiots, why on earth have they brought Lu Shanjun here? Look guys, if I were Ji Yuan, I'd be looking for the back exit right about now." Instead of attacking, the fearsome mystic tiger bowed its massive head in deep respect. It rumbled respectfully, "Greetings, Mr. G. Lu Chengfeng and Luo Ningxuang stared in utter disbelief, thinking the mystic tiger is actually bowing to the beggar. Regaining his composure, Ji Yuan thought, hee, looks like my advice worked. He put on his best enigmatic tone and said, there's no need to be formal. I'm not feeling well. Please forgive me for not being able to meet you at the door. The tiger humbly replied, it's fine. I came here hoping you'd clear some doubts. The deadly tiger sat obediently at the doorway like an oversized house cat. Ji Yuan calmly ordered, tell me. The beast explained, you told me that cultivation is like living as a human. I don't think I get it. You said it's about keeping the body from sin, pursuing spiritual righteousness, and keeping a clear conscience. The tiger continued, its glowing eyes fixed faithfully on the beggar. The 8 of them set up an ambush to end my life tonight. Since they were the ones who started it, then it shouldn't hinder my path to righteousness if I ended their threat. Why did you leave them your name, so that I'd spare them? Ji Yuan was internally sweating bullets, thinking, whoa, how does a mystic tiger have such good comprehension? Now, honestly, anyone would panic here. As the bruised martial artist watched in silent awe, Ji Yuan nervously bit his thumb, his mind racing. He thought to himself, I have to give a good reason, or else it'll lead to unpredictable consequences. Ji Yuan narrowed his eyes, a serious expression crossing his face as he carefully calculated his next move. He thought to himself, first of all, I have to acknowledge its speech. Every student loves to be praised by their mentors. Gesturing calmly toward the glowing fire, he praised the massive beast lurking in the window. He said, you're smart to be able to draw inferences from one instance, and to hold back from ending them, as I advised. It shows that you have excellent comprehension skills, and you're proactive. As Lu Chengfeng and Yin Fei listened in stunned silence, Ji Yuan continued, questioning the beast. He asked, why did these people come to the mountain to hunt you? It was because you harmed humans first, hence they came after you. Ji Yuan casually waved his hand, a relaxed smile on his face. Of course, you're not wrong to end the thread out of self-protection. Wouldn't it be foolish to just stand still and let someone take your life? The mighty Lu Shanjun lowered his massive head, absorbing every word with deep reverence. Ji Yuan went on, his tone turning solemn. However, unlike greedy hunters and merchants who seek tigers' pelts and bones for personal interests, the people who went after you today were only doing it to restore peace. They were willing to risk their lives for others. Do you think there are many like them in the world? The tiger's eyes widened with sudden understanding. He firmly replied, no, not many. Exactly, Ji Yuan stated. Yin Fei, Lu Chengfeng, and the rest of their team have chivalrous hearts. They may be young and reckless, but as long as they stay true to their intentions, it isn't impossible for them to cleanse the world of evil. He turned his gaze slightly, a hint of sorrow in his voice. It isn't wrong if you defended yourself, but the world might lose a few chivalrous men. Looking out over the worn roof of the temple, Ji Yuan explained, these warriors have a solid base in martial arts, but to you, they're nothing but child's play. That was why I left them my name, so that you'd spare them. A cheeky grin spread across Ji Yuan's face as he rested his hand on his chin. I'd like to make an interesting agreement with you. Would you accept it? Look, guys, Ji Yuan is totally bluffing his way to save his life, and it's working perfectly. Intrigued, the great beast leaned in and asked, what is it? Ji Yuan leaned back comfortably against the temple wall. The 8 of them may have pure intentions now, but that doesn't mean they won't change in the future. Why don't you be a witness today? He offered a sly proposition. If one of them commits evil in the future, then you'll have the right to punish them. Hearing this, a cold sweat broke out across the pale faces of Lu Chengfeng, Yin Fei, and Luo Ningxuang. Their hearts skipped a beat as the tension in the room skyrocketed. Pants-spoiling moment, guys. The tiger listened intently as Ji Yuan delivered the final condition. But if any of them earns their place as a righteous hero, your mercy today is enough to offset your sins in the past, and will also be a huge merit. Thrusting his finger forward with dramatic flair, Ji Yuan declared, this is a righteous act. Suddenly, a massive surge of spiritual energy erupted from Lu Shanjun. The tiger threw its head back and unleashed an earth-shaking roar that echoed through the mountains. The beast's eyes glowed with fierce realization. He thought, Mr. Ji is saying that I still have hope to transform. Or else, how am I to walk among the humans to fulfill the agreement? Bowing its massive head, the tiger realized the profound depth of the lesson. He pondered, rather than saying that he's trying to save the 8 of them, he's actually taking advantage of them to give me a chance to improve. The foundation of cultivation is all about keeping the body, mind, and spirit righteous. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the giant tiger brought its paws together and bowed deeply. He spoke with absolute reverence. Thank you for your advice once again, sir. The beast then offered, I shall obey your orders. Would you like me to accompany them to the bottom of the mountain? Panicking at the thought of a giant beast escorting them, Lu Chengfeng frantically waved his hands. He blurted out, no need. We'll leave by ourselves. Ji Yuan chuckled softly, waving his hand dismissively. It's better to let them leave on their own. Humans have prejudice against monsters. Lu Shanjun, you should go back to cultivate. He glanced at the trembling warriors. Look how frightened they are. The great tiger, however, stood resolute. Today, I have nothing to thank you with, he rumbled, but I'm willing to do the warriors a favor. Leaning intimidatingly close to a sweating Lu Qingfeng, the tiger declared, once all of you have left the mountain, you may tell the world that the ferocious tiger has been subdued. From then on, those who cross the mountain won't have to worry about the beast on Mount Bullhip anymore. With a heavy heave, the massive beast suddenly expelled a glowing stream of energy, revealing a perfectly preserved, beautifully striped tiger pelt that landed right at their feet. Mr. G, I'll take my leave, the tiger announced. With a powerful rush of wind, Lu Shanjun leapt high into the night sky, vanishing into the clouds. As the dust settled, Ji Yuan slumped back and let out a massive sigh of relief. Phew! Exhausted, Ji Yuan thought to himself in pure disbelief, God, I've actually pulled off another bluff. But guys, suddenly, a sharp crack of blinding blue lightning sparked out of nowhere. Vibrant, crackling energy surged violently down Ji Yuan's right arm. He froze, absolutely stunned by the overwhelming rush of mysterious power. He stared at his trembling hand as the residual energy faded away. Huh, he murmured in confusion. What is it now? Meanwhile, Yin Fei stepped forward and bowed deeply, his tone filled with utmost respect. Thank you for saving us, Mr. G. I regret not listening to your advice. We'll always remember your kindness. He hesitated for a moment. But my team members are injured and require medical attention. Do you still want to leave with us? A bright, relieved smile immediately broke across Ji Yuan's face. I'm unwell, so I prefer to go with you if it's convenient, he replied smoothly. Inwardly, he was screaming with joy. I've been waiting for you to say that. Clenching his bandaged fists, Lu Chengfeng bowed as well, a newfound fire in his eyes. He thought, I didn't expect monsters to exist in this world. Luckily, this expert rescued us. It used to be my dream to become a famous hero, but because of Mr. G's promise, it's become a compulsory goal. In the next scene, down in the quiet village, Grandpa Gongbanger walked the misty streets, striking his metal pan with a loud clang. It's 2 a.m, he called out into the dark. Accompanying him, the lantern lads chatted nervously. Yesterday, I heard that several martial artists went to the mountain to eliminate the big pest, one said. The other replied, I heard from seasoned hunters that the beast isn't ordinary. It's probably a mystic beast. The old man sighed. It's better to believe that it's true than to be unprepared. Just then, a thick fog rolled in, and silhouettes emerged from the mist. One of the lads pointed his lantern forward, his voice trembling. There's someone there. Grandpa Gongbanger squinted through the darkness, his eyes widening in absolute shock. That's, he gasped. Stepping out of the heavy mist were the battered martial artists, proudly carrying the massive tiger's pelt, with Ji Yuan safely leaning on Yin Fei. At dawn, the news spread far and wide that the fierce tiger on MT Bullhip had finally been eradicated. Ning'an County's government office quickly dispatched constables to investigate the matter, and they escorted Lu Chengfeng, Ji Yuan, and their companions back to the county. The chivalrous warriors presented the massive white tiger pelt to the office, and the magistrate generously rewarded them with 80 taels of silver. On top of that, they even purchased the precious pelt. Look at this, guys. The tiger's maw was bigger than a grown man's head. One of the constables exclaimed, Those chivalrous warriors are incredible. This is absolutely horrifying. The astonished elder stroked his beard and solemnly added, Every one of those people suffered serious injuries. The best physician in the county said it's a sheer miracle they survived. If they weren't martial arts experts, they would have perished long ago. In the next scene, Ji Yuan sat quietly at a table in their own room, projecting an aura of calm, while Lu Qingfeng stood nearby, his arms still tightly wrapped in white bandages. Ji Yuan gently asked, Warrior Lu, how well are your companions recovering? Lu Qingfeng sighed heavily, his expression turning grim. Mr. Ji, they only suffer minor injuries, nothing serious, all except for Duhong. The tendons and bones in his arm have been completely shattered. He'll no longer be able to practice martial arts. Looking desperate, Lu Chengfeng pleaded, Is there anything you can do to help him? Ji Yuan closed his eyes and replied softly, Unfortunately, I don't possess any medical skills. However, if he can overcome this predicament, Warrior Du will still have a promising future. Lu Chengfeng bowed respectfully and said, Thanks for the advice, Mr. Ji. By the way, we didn't reveal your presence, just as you instructed. The whole county believes that we are the ones who eradicated the evil beast. He then handed over a heavy pouch of coins. Lu Qingfeng insisted, Please take the money collected from the bounty and the sale of the tiger pelt. It totals up to 150 taels. Ji Yuan gladly accepted it, thinking to himself, Very well, if you insist. After all, I'm absolutely penniless right now. I really do need it. Lu Qingfeng looked at Ji Yuan with a hopeful expression. Mr. Ji, the third lord of the Sunset Mountain Villa has just called for Sister Apprentice Luo. We'll be leaving Ning'an County tomorrow. He paused before asking, Do you want to come along with us? Ji Yuan gently waved his hand, smiling warmly. I'll pass. I prefer tranquility, so I'm thinking of staying here for a while. Inwardly, he thought, I know too little of this world at the moment, so it's best not to just run around blindly. He analyzed the situation, pondering, I just inquired and found out that the average expenditure here is only a few taels of silver per year, and in normal residence is only a few dozen taels. The culture in this town is simple, and the local official's reputation isn't bad either. I might as well purchase a residence right here. Lu Qingfeng immediately offered. In that case, I'll accompany you in search of a house to settle down. As they walked through the beautiful, serene town next to a sparkling river, Ji Yuan took a deep breath. He thought, since I can no longer return to my own world, I should just live a good life here. Afterwards, the local Mr. Brown Hat salesman led them to a quiet courtyard. Gentlemen, this is already the third house that I'm about to show you today, the salesman explained, gesturing warmly. The serene pavilion is a tranquil place. Once you enter the courtyard, you have your very own well. He then coughed awkwardly, avoiding eye contact. It's just, it's been a long time since someone lived here. Suddenly, a soft breeze swept through the courtyard, rustling the leaves overhead. Ji Yuan looked up toward the calming sound. The nervous salesman stuttered, asking if he was able to see the tree. Yi Yuan smiled gently. My sense of hearing is still keen. I can hear the rustling of the leaves. The salesman quickly pointed out, Sir, that's a jujube tree, and it seems to be fully grown. You'll be able to eat plenty of large, fresh, and sweet red dates when autumn comes. The salesman led them inside, showing off the elegant wooden furniture and traditional screen dividers. This residence isn't just spacious, it's cheap as well. You'll only need to pay 36 taels of silver. He chuckled nervously, rubbing his hands together. Hee, so what do you say, sir? Ji Yuan was genuinely surprised. Huh, so cheap? Even the small houses earlier cost 20 to 30 taels. I wouldn't be surprised if this place sold at 60. The salesman sweated a little as he explained, you might not know this, but the previous owner passed away long ago. It's under local authority now, and since it's a bit secluded, it's been left unsold all this while. The salesman asked cautiously, Sir, does this mean you've made up your mind? Ji Yuan looked out the window with a confident smile. Why would I pass up on such a cheap and elegant residence? It's just a little dusty. It'll be fine once it's been cleaned up. Do I need to go to the county government office personally to purchase this property? The salesman praised him. Sir, you really have good taste. Well then, since it's still early, why don't we take a trip to the office? Lu Qingfeng stepped in. Mr. Ji, it's inconvenient for you to move about. Allow me to retrieve the deeds for you. Yi Yuan nodded appreciatively. How kind of you, Warrior Lu. Meanwhile, at the county government office, honest official Buzzkill held up the paperwork and looked gravely at Lu Qingfeng. Warrior Lu, you're the hero of our county, so I'd like to tell you the truth. Over the course of the past 7 years, 3 people have owned this residence. All of them either died of illness or got killed in tragic accidents. Now, honestly, anyone would panic here. Lu Qingfeng grabbed the salesman by the collar, absolutely furious. What? This is a haunted residence. The salesman turned pale and stuttered in sheer terror, pleading that it might have just slipped his mind. Lu Qingfeng suddenly remembered Ji Yuan's confident smile when he said it was just a little dusty. The realization hit him like a brick. He thought to himself, if it's truly haunted, surely Mr. Ji would have seen through it. If he says it's not a problem, then it won't be a problem. Guys, he thinks our hero is some kind of god, but we all know the truth, right? Regaining his composure, Lu Qingfeng stopped the terrified official from putting the papers away and firmly declared, Wait, I will just keep this title deed for now. In the next scene, Ji Yuan was resting back in his room, staring at his own hand. He grumbled, why did I have to stumble across it? If only my itchy fingers didn't place that chess piece right in the middle of the board. Just then, a crackling streak of bright, blue mystical energy violently sparked to life, right between his fingers. Ji Yuan shouted, nearly jumping out of his skin as he grabbed his glowing wrist. He stared in absolute shock. The mysterious phenomenon that occurred back when the beast left is happening again. But guys, this is where it gets hilarious. For the past few days, he had been trying all kinds of ridiculous hand gestures just to force the magic out, but it never worked. Yet now, it was happening completely on its own when he least expected it. He closely inspected his hand, pondering deeply. But here comes the question. What can this actually do? Does it turn me into a new person? Still, I don't feel any changes within my body. With a soft, sliding sound, the pure, mystical energy began to swirl beautifully around his fingers. He sat cross-legged, watching the glowing blue strands flow gracefully through the air like ribbons of water. He manipulated the energy, carefully spinning it between his fingertips, completely captivated by the mysterious power now at his command. Suddenly, a voice called out from the hallway. Mr. Ji, it's me, Qingfeng. Startled, Ji Yuan immediately dismissed the magical sparks with a sharp hiss and replied calmly, Come on in. Lu Qingfeng walked in and respectfully placed the documents and a bronze key on the table. Mr. Ji, I've already purchased that residence for you. Here are the title deeds and the key. Yi Yuan smiled gently. Thank you very much, Warrior Lu. Ji Yuan held the deed up with a bright, satisfied grin on his face. Look guys, he was practically glowing with joy. He thought to himself, From my previous life till now, I finally own my very first house. The next morning, it was time to say goodbye. Yin Fei, Luo Ningxuang, and Lu Chengfeng stood by their carriage, ready to depart. Lu Chengfeng clasped his hands together respectfully and said, "Farewell, Mr. Ji." Ji Yuan waved back warmly from the inn's entrance, calling out, "May we meet again." As the carriage rolled away, a hint of loneliness washed over him. He sighed inwardly. Now that we've parted ways, I'll inevitably feel bored all alone. Afterwards, Ji Yuan decided to upgrade his look. He visited a local tailor, where the brown hat salesman happily clapped his hands. "Sir, you look incredibly good in this outfit." And honestly, guys, he wasn't lying. Ji Yuan stood tall, dressed in stunning, flowing blue ancient robes with elegant silver accents. He admired the intricate fabric, thinking, "I didn't expect clothes from the olden times to fit me so perfectly." Ji Yuan turned to the salesman and requested, "Shopkeeper, can you please send the furniture that I purchased from the shop next door, along with these clothes, to my residence?" The salesman nodded politely. "May I ask where you live, sir?" Yi Yuan smiled. "The Serene Pavilion, in the Longicorn neighborhood." The moment those words left Ji Yuan's mouth, the salesman's face turned completely pale. His eyes widened in absolute terror, and cold sweat dripped down his forehead. He stuttered in sheer panic. "Ah, that place is—" Ji Yuan raised an eyebrow, sensing the man's intense fear. "What is it?" he asked. The salesman swallowed hard, quickly forcing a nervous laugh. "Nothing. Huh. I'll ask someone to deliver them immediately." Later that day, back at the Serene Pavilion, an unusual, heavy stone structure sat squarely over the courtyard well, covered by wooden planks and dead leaves. Ji Yuan stood before the sealed well, lightly stroking his chin. He stared at the heavy rock blocking the opening, muttering to himself, "This will, somehow, I feel a little uneasy about it." Just then, the two sweaty movers approached him, looking completely terrified. "Sir, we've laid out your furniture and clothes. We'll take our leave now," one said quickly. Ji Yuan smiled warmly. "Thanks for your hard work." As they walked away, one of the movers whispered, "Isn't this house?" The other immediately slapped his arm, hissing, "Hush, hurry up and leave." Ji Yuan watched the men sprint out of the courtyard as if their lives depended on it. He narrowed his eyes, his sharp mind piecing it all together. He thought, the shopkeeper and these people were all afraid to speak whenever this place was mentioned. Don't tell me there's something peculiar going on here. What happens next will completely shock you guys. A heavy metal gong echoed through the quiet streets, followed by a local watchman declaring, "Midnight notice, stay safe and sound." Outside, the wind rustled through the dark trees, creating an eerie, unsettling atmosphere. Meanwhile, tucked in his bed, Ji Yuan shivered violently. He thought, what's going on? Somehow, I'm feeling colder and colder. Is the blanket I bought too thin? Suddenly, a slow creaking sound echoed from the courtyard. Ji Yuan's eyes snapped open. He muttered, "What's that sound?" Out in the yard, the massive stone sealing the old well began to shift, leaking a sinister, glowing purple aura. With a heavy, echoing thud, the stone completely gave way. Inside his room, Ji Yuan's face went pale with terror. He realized that's the rock that's holding down the well cover. It dropped onto ground. From the dark depths of the well, shadowy black tendrils erupted into the night air. Guys, he definitely peed a little. Ji Yuan frantically hid under his thin blanket, cursing in his mind. Surely I wouldn't be that unlucky. Damn that broker. Curse your ancestors. The terrifying entity fully emerged, revealing itself as the Mr. Many-Eyed Spectre. Trembling, Ji Yuan thought, what should I do? That's definitely a spectre. I should run now. As the spectre slowly reached a shadowy claw toward his bed, Ji Yuan realized his grim reality. But if I fail to escape, I'll most likely end up dead. Suddenly, glowing blue energy began pulling directly from Ji Yuan's face. He panicked. It's sucking out my life force. The many-eyed spectre hovered ominously over him. Gasping for air, Ji Yuan choked out. It's getting hard to breathe. But guys, Ji Yuan's eyes ignited with a brilliant blue light. He screamed internally, did I overcome a near-death encounter with a mystic tiger, just to die here in obscurity? I refuse to accept this. In his mind, a massive, ancient Weiqi board appeared. He desperately called upon its power. That chess game, that chess piece. Do something quick. His eyes went wide as he focused all his willpower, shouting, I. Thrusting his hand forward, radiating pure spiritual energy, he commanded, will not accept this. Begone. A blinding beam of light shot from his palm, striking the spectre. The beast let out an agonizing howl, but the dark tendrils quickly coiled back around him. Ji Yuan screamed as the shadows tightened. Just then, massive rings of blue energy crashed down from above, violently striking the beast. The impact left a devastating mark, blasting the spectre against the wooden wall. Defeated, the shadowy mass swiftly slithered back into the dark well. Afterwards, the scene shifts to the local town guardian temple. Inside, the grand golden statue of the town guardian sat in absolute silence. until it suddenly sparked to life with blue flames. The deity spoke. "Where are the Night Rangers?" The guardian raised his hand and commanded, "Make haste to the Longicorn neighborhood and investigate the Spectre prison well." Immediately, two streaks of brilliant light launched into the night sky. Meanwhile, back at the pavilion, Ji Yuan sat on his bed, bathed in sweat. He sighed in relief. That Spectre was repelled just now. Looks like I managed to scare it off. He gripped his shoulder. My right arm's numb. My body seems to be fine, though. He carefully opened his door and stepped out, thinking, it's better to take the opportunity to flee now. After all, I might not be this lucky next time. Look, guys, he really can't catch a break tonight. As soon as he stepped out, he froze, spotting two mysterious horn-masked Night Rangers. He panicked. Another ghost? The Rangers muttered to themselves. Another mortals actually decided to reside in the serene pavilion. One Ranger noted, "Strange, the foul aura of the Spectre prison well has dissipated substantially. What happened here?" The other replied, "That evil spirit's aura is unstable, and the feng shui array here is intact, so it shouldn't be able to escape." The first added, "If that's the case, this is a God-sent opportunity to eliminate it." Standing completely still, Ji Yuan thought, "Do they think? I can't see them." One of the Rangers flew off into the sky, leaving the other behind. He instructed, "Guard the mouth of the well. I'll report to the town guardian immediately." Observing the situation, Ji Yuan thought, "Looks like there's really some kind of ghost imprisoned in the well. Those two who came here are probably the subordinates of Ning'an County's town guardian." He pondered, the town guardian's actually real. So, are there immortals and Buddha here too? Finding a sudden burst of confidence, Ji Yuan calmly sat down at the stone courtyard table. He reasoned, now that they're here, I don't have to leave, right? After all, I spent 36 taels on this house. He added, besides, who wouldn't want to witness the annihilation of evil beings? He glanced nervously at the remaining Night Ranger. He debated, should I greet him? Never mind. It's better not to reveal myself. At the same time, the tall spectral guard stared back, sweating profusely under his mask. The Ranger thought, why isn't this person asleep? Oh, he was probably awoken by this chilling aura. It's probably hard to sleep with the nightmares. Trust me, the sheer awkwardness here is hilarious. Suddenly, a familiar aroma drifted through the air. This scent, it's the scent of sandalwood incense of the temple. A thick, glowing fog began rolling into the courtyard. Ji Yuan watched in awe. Is the town guardian of Ning'an County coming in person? In the next scene, the Grand Town Guardian himself arrived, accompanied by the imposing ghostly Lord entourage. The Night Ranger quickly kneeled, greeting them. Greetings, Lord Martial Judge, Lord of Rewards, Lord of Punishment, and Lord Sentinel. Watching the dramatic entrance, Ji Yuan couldn't help but think, isn't this a little too dramatic? The Lord's secretary asking, is this the mortal who recently took up residence in the Serene Pavilion? Is there anything out of the ordinary? One of the horn-masked Night Rangers bowed slightly and replied, Lord Martial Judge, this person isn't able to sleep due to the invasion of the foul aura. There isn't any abnormality. Meanwhile, Ji Yuan just sat there quietly in the background, watching the spirits. The Lord Martial Judge, stroking his dark mustache, observed the surroundings. He questioned the squad. The foul aura here has indeed diminished sharply. What happened? The masked emissary continued his report, explaining, this vicious specter had been screeching nonstop tonight, but for some unknown reason, he was wounded grievously. Pondering the strange turn of events, the Lord's secretary suggested, there isn't anything unusual in the vicinity of Longicorn neighborhood. Is it possible that an expert passed by Ning'an County and decided to lend us a hand on the way? But guys, the fierce Lord of Punishment wasn't here to play detective. Gripping his glowing mace tightly, he declared, let's not go into that for now. After we've subdued this fiend, we can investigate in detail. The Lord Sentinel, eyes glued to an ancient tome, quickly agreed. True, time doesn't wait, and any delay might lead to changes in circumstances. The elderly Lord of Rewards nodded sagely, stroking his long white beard. I concur. With a swift motion of his glowing writing brush, the Lord's secretary issued the command. All divisions, prepare the Soul Lock array. Emissaries of the Soul Collector, heed my command. Time to use the Soul Locker. The Night Rangers moved in unison, shouting, affirmative. Look, I'm telling you guys, Ji Yuan was just trying to survive the night. Watching the spectral army assemble, he thought, they're about to take action. But do they need to execute such a massive operation against that thing in the well? Besides, none of them cares whether I leave the scene. Suddenly, the emissaries dashed forward with a sharp whoosh, carrying dark flags bearing the word order. A massive, dome-like energy barrier erupted, sealing off the entire area in a blinding blue light. Ji Yuan looked up in awe, wondering, is this the Soul Lock array? The Lord Martial Judge locked his fierce gaze on the well. This night will be your last, he declared. Emissaries of the Soul Collector, begin, he ordered. The masked rangers immediately hurled heavy chains toward the target. 4 of the emissaries took their positions around the ominous stone well, their heavy chains plunging straight down into the pitch-black depths below. With a coordinated heave, they pulled back hard, shouting, "Up!" The chains grew taut with immense tension. Bursting out from the water, the terrifying many-eyed specter was hoisted into the air, completely bound by the mystical chains. The monstrous entity wailed a pathetic boo, boo, boo-hoo. Ji Yuan stared in absolute shock, his face dripping with cold sweat. He stammered in disbelief. This is the thing from just now? But guys, the real twist hasn't even started yet. The trapped specter suddenly snapped, its multiple terrifying eyes open, lunging forward with a violent burst of dark energy. The sheer force of the monster's pull yanked one of the emissaries off his feet. He crashed into the ground with a heavy thud, sliding across the grass. Seeing their comrade falter, the other emissaries drew their blades. "Strike!" they yelled, charging directly at the beast. With a sharp swing, an emissary delivered a glowing blue slash right across the dark entity. The Lord Secretary stepped up. He pointed 2 fingers forward, threatening. "Vile creature, I'll have you disintegrated tonight." Intense beams of radiant blue light shot down from the heavens as the Lord Secretary and the Lord of Rewards channeled their immense spiritual power. With a booming thud, the Lord Secretary and the towering Lord of Punishment launched themselves high into the air, weapons drawn and glowing with power. The 2 lords crashed down upon the many-eyed specter simultaneously, their glowing brush and massive spiked mace striking the shadowy mass with overwhelming force. The monstrous specter ballooned outward, unleashing a massive shockwave of purple energy across the courtyard. The sheer impact sent a gale-force wind straight at Ji Yuan. He coughed, struggling to stay upright. Such great force, he thought. Thankfully, one of the horn-masked emissaries had stepped in front of him to block the blast. Ji Yuan muttered to himself, "At least they know how to protect the surrounding audience." Trust me, the irony of this situation wasn't lost on him. Squinting his poorly sighted eyes, Ji Yuan realized something bizarre. He thought, strange, I'm unable to see ordinary matters clearly. Yet I'm able to clearly see what I'm not supposed to be able to see. Up above, the dark specter shriveled under the glowing chains, its purple aura flickering weakly. Ji Yuan watched closely, thinking, looks like the monster's about to die. But guys, the monster's giant central eye suddenly filled with jagged, glowing red veins. It let out a piercing shriek, arg. With a sickening swoosh, multiple shadowy, clawed arms burst right out of the creature's dark, swirling body. One of the massive, dark hands lunged downward, wrapping its terrifying fingers completely around one of the emissaries holding the chains. The ranger panicked, crying out, "Not good." Without hesitation, a fellow emissary leaped into action, raising his heavy sword high and bringing it down hard onto the shadowy limb. But instead of severing the arm, the blade bounced off with a loud metallic clang. The swordsman yelled in horror. It didn't cut through. The spectral hand clenched its fist with devastating power. Dark, jagged spikes erupted from its grip, piercing right through the trapped emissary as he let out a painful scream. Now honestly, that stare alone would make me uninstall Life. Feeding on the chaos, the many-eyed specter surged with renewed, dark power. With a series of sharp, violent snaps, the mystical chains binding it shattered into pieces. The bindings completely destroyed, the fiendish creature expanded into a colossal, horrifying maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. It let out a deafening, terrifying howl that shook the very ground. Ji Yuan's face went completely pale, his eyes wide with absolute dread as he realized the horrific truth. Those chains are about to break, he thought, bracing himself for the impending nightmare. The Lord Secretary's face contorted with absolute fury. He shouted, "How dare you?" The spectral officials raised their hands, summoning a massive surge of glowing blue energy. Together, they bellowed, "Fire!" The radiant energy blasted into the chained many-eyed specter right above the well, lighting up the entire courtyard in a brilliant flash. The monster thrashed violently under the intense magical bombardment, shrieking in agonizing pain as the heavy chains dug deep into its shadowy form. But instead of giving up, the specter let out a terrifying roar, its massive, bloodshot eyes bulging with sheer rage. Watching from the bushes, Ji Yuan broke into a cold sweat. He thought, this thing is so savage. If it was this aggressive before, I would have perished before I could even lift a finger. Suddenly, the Lord Secretary leaped into the air, wielding his glowing weapon. "Die, fiend!" he roared, bringing it down with all his might. The powerful impact struck the specter directly, causing one of its horrific eyeballs to crack wide open. Look, I'm telling you guys, you never underestimate a cornered beast. In a desperate counterattack, the specter lunged forward and viciously bit the official, sending him flying backward with a sharp cry of pain. He slammed hard into the dirt, as a heavy shockwave kicked up a cloud of dust all around him. With a horrifying screech, the many-eyed specter finally shattered its glowing chains, breaking completely free from the restrictive array. Ji Yuan's face turned pale, and his eyes went wide. He nervously thought, I only wanted to watch the fun. I never thought they would actually mess this up. This will not do. I cannot sit here any longer. It is way too dangerous. He quickly stood up, planning his escape. He thought, I have to slip away right now. But just then, the towering specter suddenly froze, its remaining eyes widening in absolute terror as it stared at something unseen in the distance. Seizing the perfect opportunity, the official pointed forward and yelled, "Now is our chance. Attack!" The horn-masked Knight Rangers sprang into action, swinging their heavy chains through the air with sharp whistling sounds. The Lord of Punishment leaped back into the fray, his massive spiked mace raised high. "All Nether officers, follow my lead," he commanded with booming authority. The emissaries descended upon the immobilized specter, their glowing blades slashing through its shadowy body in a dazzling display of seamless teamwork. Ji Yuan held his breath, his hands trembling slightly as he watched the brutal execution unfold right in front of him. The specter let out one final, agonizing scream as its dark form was completely torn apart by the relentless assault. Its shadowy remains dissipated into the night sky, vanishing into nothingness. Ji Yuan let out a massive sigh of relief and slumped back onto his stone stool. He thought, fortunately, the righteous side has prevailed. But afterwards, Ji Yuan suddenly flinched, a drop of nervous sweat rolling down his cheek. Total silence fell over the courtyard. Every single spectral official and Knight Ranger was now standing perfectly still, staring directly at him. He's standing, but his soul is already in the afterlife. He stuttered in his thoughts. What do they want? Are they going to silence me because I have seen things that I was not supposed to? What happens next will completely shock you guys. Instead of attacking, the imposing officials suddenly bowed deeply. "We were blind for not recognizing a person of your stature," one said respectfully. Another added, "We are immensely grateful for the help, sir." Ji Yuan was completely stunned, his mind racing. He thought, should I say something? What in the world should I even say? The Lord Secretary smiled warmly, keeping his respectful posture. He said, "I suspected that someone uncovered the creature's weakness. Little did I know, you have been sitting leisurely in the courtyard all along, sir. A true expert never reveals his move. Trust me, guys, his poker face is truly legendary." From the Lord Martial Judge's perspective, Ji Yuan looked like a calm, composed, and unfathomably powerful immortal. Believing they were in the presence of a supreme master, the Lord Secretary bowed once again. "Looks like we have overstayed our welcome. We will depart now and report to the town guardian." The other official nodded softly, yes. They clasped their hands together in deep reverence. "We will take our leave now. Good night, sir." With a bright flash of blue light and a sharp rushing sound, the entire ghostly entourage shot up into the night sky, disappearing as quickly as they had arrived. After they're gone, he went pale and slumped over a big rock thinking, "If this continues, I'm afraid that I'll have a heart attack one of these days." Ji Yuan stared at the stone well. He calmly thought, the well does not seem so eerie now. The wooden doors of the serene pavilion slowly opened with a heavy, creaking sound. Ji Yuan stepped out, stretching his arms toward the sky. He smiled broadly and said, "How refreshing. I slept like a log until afternoon." He approached the stone well, sitting quietly in the courtyard. Holding two empty wooden buckets, he just stood there, staring down into the dark abyss in complete silence. Suddenly, the horrifying image of the many-eyed specter's jagged teeth flashed in his mind. Sweating nervously, Ji Yuan muttered, "I should probably go outside to draw water for washing up." Meanwhile, at the Twin Well in the waterfront Longicor neighborhood, locals were busy going about their daily routines, peacefully drawing water. When he was drawing water, he heard two ladies whispering, "Did any of you hear that dreadful cry last night?" Other replied, "It seemed to have come from the Serene Pavilion. There was a lot of activity there yesterday. Someone's probably moved in again." Ji Yuan stood by the well, holding his bucket's rope. He observed the calm atmosphere and thought, the people here appear to be calm. Apparently, that array muffled most of the noise coming from the second half of the huge commotion last night. Just then, two young women noticed him. One hid her smile behind a floral fan and whispered, "Huh, who is this? He looks handsome." The other replied softly, "I haven't seen him before. Since he's here to draw water, it's likely he lives here in Longicor neighborhood or the vicinity, right?" The first girl simply giggled. "I have no idea." Unaware of their gossiping, Ji Yuan just offered a warm, polite smile. After this, he confidently hoisted the heavy buckets of water onto his carrying pole and began his walk back. But guys, with a soft sliding sound, his foot caught a wet puddle on the stone path. He fell flat on his back with a heavy thud, the buckets crashing down and spilling water everywhere. The women, along with a plump older lady, instantly burst into laughter. One of them teased, "He's a gentleman, all right." Ji Yuan's face turned completely red. Sweating bullets, he thought, "Geez, this is so embarrassing." Sitting in the puddle, he laughed awkwardly. "Haha, it isn't easy to carry the water." Nearby, Granny Squint and a peasant watched closely. The granny noted, "Huh? That person seems to have poor eyesight." The peasant nodded, "Yeah, I was wondering why his eyes are grayish. He came here to fetch water, all by himself." Suddenly, a young voice called out, "Mister, let me carry the water for you." Ji Yuan looked up in surprise. It was Yin Xing, a 12-year-old boy, standing proudly with a bright smile. Ji Yuan stared at the boy's face. He thought, I can actually see him clearly. Based on my experience these past 2 days, it seems those that I can see clearly aren't ordinary. Reaching out to take the boy's hand, Ji Yuan asked, "What's your name, little boy? How old are you?" The boy beamed. "My name's Yin Xing, and I'm 12 years old. I always fetch water for my family, so I'm very strong." Afterwards, Yin Xing hoisted the carrying pole with ease. Ji Yuan waved. "Thank you for the help." Yin Xing cheerfully replied, "No problem at all. Let me get more water for you, and we'll go together after that." A little while later, they arrived at the grand entrance of the Serene Pavilion. Now, honestly, anyone would panic here. Yin Xing stood frozen, his face pale and sweating. He nervously asked, "Mister, do you live here?" Ji Yuan smiled gently. "Yes, this is where I live. I just moved in yesterday." "Why? Don't you want to help me carry the water in?" The boy shook his head, trembling. "Mister, our parents don't allow us to come anywhere near this place." Ji Yuan sighed inwardly, thinking, the neighbors don't know that the malicious creature in this house was banished. Yin Xing quickly set the buckets down at the doorway. He stuttered, "Mister, you shouldn't live here. This place." Ji Yuan gently patted the boy's head. "You can call me Mr. G. You have a warm heart at such a young age. It's precious and commendable." He pointed toward the courtyard where a heavy boulder now sat, explaining, "As for the Serene Pavilion, you don't have to worry about it. It's safe for me to live here." Waving him off with a smile, Ji Yuan said, "Go home now. Don't let your family worry about you." Yin Xing waved back hesitantly. "I'll be leaving then, Mr. G." Ji Yuan watched him go, a soft, fond smile remaining on his face. Suddenly, his expression completely changed to shock. The Day Ranger materialized from swirling black shadow right beside him. The spectral figure bowed, "Greetings, Mr. G. I'm a Day Ranger and subordinate of Ning'an County's town guardian." Look, friends, getting summoned by a deity out of nowhere is never a casual thing. Ji Yuan asked, "What's the matter?" The Day Ranger answered politely, "My lord would like to meet you and request your presence at the town guardian temple. We may go there now if it's convenient for you, Mr. G." Ji Yuan panicked internally, thinking, "I'm to meet the town guardian of Ning'an County? Right now?" Maintaining his calm facade, Ji Yuan requested, "Please give me a moment, Day Ranger. Allow me to take the water buckets in." The ranger respectfully replied, "Take your time, Mr. G." In the next scene, they walked down the street together. Ji Yuan gestured forward. "Please lead the way, Day Ranger. It's my first time here in Ning'an County. I don't know the location of the town guardian temple." The masked figure obliged. "Of course, Mr. G. This way, please." Ji Yuan kept a straight face but was sweating bullets on the inside. He thought, his attitude toward me is way too respectful. It's kind of awkward, since I'm not a person of note, or anything. Just then, Ji Yuan noticed something. He glanced back toward the alleyway. He saw Yin Xing peeking from around the corner, so he offered the boy one last warm, reassuring smile. He then turned back, continuing his walk alongside the invisible spectral guard. Boy was scared to death and thought, "That's so scary, he's walking on his own, and it even looks like he's talking to someone. He's probably talking to a ghost." The boy turned and sprinted away in pure terror, thinking, the ghost from the Serene Pavilion must have followed him out. With a loud crash, the heavy wooden doors of the Yin residence burst open. Little Yin Xing sprinted inside, desperately shouting, "Mother! Mother!" Panting and trembling from head to toe, the terrified boy stumbled into the weaving room. He stuttered, "There's a man." He, the ghost, completely overcome by fear. Just then, Yin Zhaoxian, his father, walked in with a stern expression, holding a book. "How old are you now? It is unseemly to speak incoherently," he scolded, clearly annoyed by the boy's panic. Shifting the mood, Mrs. Yin gently smiled from her loom and shared some good news. She mentioned that Yin Xing's father had just been chosen as a tutor at a new school in the county. Yin Xing's eyes lit up as he eagerly asked when it would start. Stroking his goatee with pride, Yin Zhaoxian chuckled. "Of course. I will start in a few days, but it won't be long." He then looked down at his son, telling him that when the time comes, he will also go to the school to learn from the sage's books and properly prepare for the imperial exam. Yin Xing just let out a quiet, "Oh." With a heavy thud, Yin Zhaoxian tossed his book onto the wooden table. "Oh, right. What were you panicking over just now?" he asked. Taking a nervous breath, Yin Xing explained that someone was staying in the Serene Pavilion again, a friendly gentleman, but he talks to the ghost there. Yin Xing blurted out, his eyes wide with sheer terror. Instantly, Mrs. Yin hushed him, placing a frantic finger over her lips. "Chill. How can you make such a careless remark?" she warned, her face dropping in a serious concern. Yin Zhaoxian narrowed his eyes, immediately questioning his son's bold claim. "How did you know?" Fidgeting with his hands, the boy nervously explained. He stuttered, saying he ran into Mr. G drawing water from the well. Seeing the man's poor eyesight, Yin Xing helped carry the water, having absolutely no idea Ji Yuan was living at the haunted pavilion. His mother immediately asked if he actually went inside. "No, of course not." Yin Xing replied defensively, reminding her she had instructed him never to do that. He had just left the buckets by the doorway. But then, Yin Xing recalled the horrifying part. He saw Ji Yuan later, walking along the outer wall of the house, casually talking as if someone was right beside him. Yinxing admitted he was so terrified he ran straight back home. Trembling, the boy looked up at his father and asked if the terrifying many-eyed specter had followed the man out. But guys, little did he know, Ji Yuan wasn't being haunted. He was just casually chatting with the local deity's messengers. His father looked at him with suspicious eyes. Gently rubbing his shoulders, Mrs. Yin offered a warm, comforting smile. It is fine. Just do not go there anymore. Also, do not go blathering about it to anyone else, okay? She then turned her soft gaze to her husband, suggesting that he take Yin Xing to the town guardian temple to pray and dispel any lingering misfortune. Yin Zhaoxian nodded in agreement. Very well. I will take him to the town guardian temple to offer up some incense after lunch. Meanwhile, at the grand entrance of the town guardian temple, the sun cast long shadows over the majestic wooden gates. Up in the ethereal clouds above, the masked day ranger formally announced to his superior, "My lord, Mr. Ji has arrived." The town guardian, Song Shichong, now disguised as an elderly mortal man with thick white hair, waved his hand. "You are dismissed. I would like to talk with Mr. Ji in private," he instructed softly. Ji Yuan stared in utter surprise. He honestly hadn't expected the powerful deity to take the humble form of an elderly mortal. The old man respectfully bowed. "I, Song Shichong, the town guardian of Ning'an County, would like to express my gratitude to you, Mr. Ji, for helping us eradicate the evil creature." Ji Yuan quickly bowed back, humbly claiming it was just a coincidence and nothing worth mentioning. Chuckling at Ji Yuan's modesty, Song Shichong invited him for some refreshments at a building right outside the temple grounds. Soon after, they arrived at an elegant, multi-story tea house adorned with red lanterns swinging gently in a breeze. A polite waiter approached their table, setting down a hot pot of tea and plates of golden pastries. "Dear customers, here are all the pastries you ordered. Please enjoy," he said warmly. Both Ji Yuan and the elderly town guardian smiled and warmly thanked the young waiter for his service. Walking away with a pleasant smile, the waiter thought to himself, "These two customers are so polite." Taking a bite of a sweet cake, Ji Yuan smiled brightly. "Delectable. Have a bite too, Your Excellency," he offered generously. But Song Shichong simply stroked his beard and laughed. He explained his golden body was formed from a clay earth spirit sculpture, so he couldn't actually eat mortal food. Then, shifting the topic, he curiously asked Ji Yuan where he was from and why he came to Ning'an County. Ji Yuan paused, staring at his half-eaten pastry. He thought to himself that he certainly couldn't talk about his previous life in a modern world. Honestly, he was still wondering why he was even here. Smiling awkwardly, Ji Yuan admitted it wasn't convenient to answer, only saying he was staying temporarily. Song Shichong kindly brushed it off, assuring him that getting rid of their major headache was favor enough. But guys, Song Shichong began to reveal the dark history. 7 years ago, an earth dragon nurtured a thick miasma that flowed into a mass burial ground. Fueled by the foul air of death and hatred, it mutated into the malicious many-eyed specter. When Song Shichong led his forces to stop it, he discovered it had developed immense intelligence. The horrifying creature pretended to be lost, tricking the deities. In a critical moment, it detonated the corrupted power of the earth, causing massive devastation and seriously injuring the town guardian's golden body. Despite suffering a huge loss and depleting his incense power, Song Shichong summoned a massive pillar of light, managing to deal a devastating blow to the malicious fiend. However, the wounded monster managed to escape due to their carelessness. They tracked it to its hiding place, the well in the serene pavilion, and sealed it deep inside to prevent it from escaping until Song Shichong recovered. The town guardian closed his eyes, explaining that the first 2 occupants of the pavilion actually died naturally. But by the time a scholar moved in later, the creature had recovered enough to move slightly out of the well, literally scaring the poor man to death. Because earthly deities cannot interfere too much with the mortal world, they had to rely on appearing in dreams and spreading rumors to keep the townsfolk safely away from the serene pavilion. Smiling brightly, Song Shichong proudly stated that Ji Yuan's presence created a rare opportunity. Using all their accumulated strength, they finally ended the threat for good, bringing peace to the county. Look, I'm telling you guys, our main character just realized his casual front row seat to a ghost fight almost got him ended. Ji Yuan sat frozen, sweating bullets as he thought about how perilous that night truly was. He decided right then and there to think twice before casually watching dangerous supernatural battles again. As they sat over tea and snacks, Ji Yuan let out a small sigh, remarking that he seemed to be the last unlucky victim in the serene pavilion. But friends, the town guardian just laughed heartily. He replied, "Huh, you jest, Mr. Ji. That evil creature is the unlucky one since it encountered you." Ji Yuan's expression turned serious. He placed his hands together respectfully and admitted the truth. He said firmly, "Truth is, I'm no expert. It was but a stroke of luck that I managed to hurt it. I would like to ask for your advice, Your Excellency." The town guardian smiled, gesturing for him to continue, saying, "Please feel free to ask me any questions, Mr. Ji." But guys, internally the old man was incredibly skeptical. He thought to himself, How could a powerful specter spawned from corrupted Earth possibly be injured by mere chance? Unaware of the Guardian's inner doubts, Ji Yuan asked if he knew anything about the human body cultivation techniques of this world. In his mind, he pictured powerful Zen masters levitating among the misty mountains. The town guardian answered honestly, explaining that the incense and golden body he cultivated borrowed entirely from the will of living beings. Because of this divine nature, he simply didn't know the ordinary methods of mortal cultivation. But then the old man stroked his beard thoughtfully and added, "But I do have some mortal martial arts books." Hearing this, Ji Yuan's eyes cast downward, clearly disappointed. He thought to himself, not even one proper cultivation technique? Old man added, "I also know a little about the basic breathing technique, but this kind of technique is merely superficial. I'm afraid it would be useless." Ji Yuan asked, "To be frank, I don't even possess such superficial techniques. Your Excellency, if it's convenient, would you be so kind as to lend it to me along with those martial arts books? I would like to take a look at them as well." Quickly recovering his composure, Ji Yuan's gaze hardened. He thought, since he had been such a huge help with the Spectre, surely the Guardian wouldn't refuse a minor request for those books. The town guardian smiled warmly, stroking his beard. I don't see why not," he agreed cheerfully, promising to send someone to deliver them directly to the serene pavilion. Relieved, Ji Yuan clasped his hands together in a polite salute, thanking the Guardian profusely for his generosity. But guys, realizing how easygoing the town guardian was, Ji Yuan saw an opening. He thought to himself that it was finally time to ask about matters ordinary mortals simply couldn't comprehend. Leaning in slightly, he began, "Your Excellency, as you know, nowadays, there are all these celestial prefectures, immortal sects, spiritual mountains, and so on. What are the qualifications they're looking for in a potential disciple?" The old man's eyes narrowed slightly, a spark of suspicion crossing his face. Why did Ji Yuan keep asking questions like this? Could it be possible that he really wasn't the hidden expert he appeared to be? Look, I'm telling you guys, Ji Yuan is playing a very dangerous game of bluffing here. Shaking off his doubts, the Guardian explained that the Shung Prefecture didn't have any immortal sections. The only major power in the G state was Mount Jade Heart, where rumor had it an imperial seal edict was hidden to determine the mountain's deity. However, he admitted his ignorance regarding how they took on disciples, or the affairs of other states and countries. Ji Yuan pressed further, his eyes wide with curiosity, asking eagerly, "What about the Celestial Court?" The town guardian broke into a cold sweat, looking utterly bewildered. "Celestial Court?" he echoed, confused. He asked where this specific celestial prefecture was located, noting that it sounded incredibly magnificent given the grand titles in its name. Ji Yuan froze, lightly touching his chin. He thought to himself in shock, was there no celestial court in this world? Did that mean the celestials here were exactly what mortals merely perceived them to be? Quickly covering his tracks, Ji Yuan waved it off with a laugh, saying it was just a powerful celestial prefecture he had heard of before. The Guardian nodded in awe, assuming it must be extraordinary, completely unaware that Ji Yuan was just making things up. Looking a bit embarrassed, Ji Yuan rubbed his cheek awkwardly. He nervously admitted that he still had some silly questions, hoping the old man wouldn't mind indulging him. The town guardian graciously gestured with his hand, reassuring him to feel free to ask, promising to share everything he knew. Taking a deep breath, Ji Yuan dropped the ultimate beginner questions. He asked what country they were in, the current dynasty, and the era. He even asked about the situation in other countries, and how many times the eras had changed. Now honestly, anyone would panic here. As Ji Yuan silently prayed the Guardian wouldn't think he was a total fool. The old man stared at him, absolutely bewildered. Internally, he reasoned it was understandable for a wanderer not to know about hidden cultivation matters, but to ask about basic, mundane geography? Yet, he noticed Ji Yuan was extremely well-spoken and perfectly polite, clearly an educated man. Suddenly, a crazy realization hit the town guardian. He remembered a strange tale of celestials and monsters he read back when he was a living official. It was the legend of the Thousand-Year Dreamer, a being who fell asleep and awoke to find centuries had passed in the blink of an eye. Ji Yuan waved a hand, calling out to His Excellency, wondering why the old man had suddenly spaced out. He nervously worried if his questions had finally pushed the limit of stupidity. Startled, the town guardian snapped back to reality with a sharp gasp, his eyes wide as he looked at Ji Yuan with a newfound, terrifying level of reverence. Suddenly sitting up perfectly straight, the old man spoke with intense, unwavering respect, begging Ji Yuan to listen to his explanation. Ji Yuan was utterly baffled, wondering why the Guardian was suddenly treating him like an ancient god instead of a casual friend. "Trust me guys, this misunderstanding is getting out of hand." Pointing to a map, the Guardian respectfully explained that their vast country consisted of 13 states under the Great Jin dynasty, which had spanned over 200 years. He listed the 9 previous dynasties, noting that in ancient records, this land belonged to the Great Zhou dynasty. Hearing this, Ji Yuan's mind raced, realizing this Great Zhou was definitely not the one from his own world's history. The Guardian closed his eyes reverently, adding that the events of those ancient, bygone eras were impossible to fully describe, even for an earthly deity like himself. Playing along flawlessly, Ji Yuan simply nodded with a profound look, replying, "Indeed." Afterwards, outside the temple doors, Ji Yuan respectfully thanked the guardian for his incredible hospitality. The old man humbly replied that the honor was entirely theirs, assuring Ji Yuan that the martial arts books would be delivered to the serene pavilion very soon. Ji Yuan offered a final, gracious bow, thanking him one last time. As the guardian's spirit gracefully floated backward toward the sky, he warmly invited Ji Yuan for another chat in the future. Ji Yuan smiled and bid him farewell. Just then, someone gently tugged at a green sleeve. A small voice called out nervously, "Father." It was little Yin Qing, standing with his father, the scholar Yin Zhaoxian. The boy pointed eagerly toward the temple courtyard, exclaiming that Mr. Ji was right over there. Surprised, his father followed his gaze. Yin Zhaoxian looked in that direction, seeing Ji Yuan in his green scholar's robe bowing to an older, distinguished gentleman. He stared intently, thinking to himself that both men looked incredibly refined and that he had never seen either of them in Ning'an County before. But guys, little did this mortal scholar know he was staring directly at his town's own divine deity. Ji Yuan peacefully strolled away from the temple grounds, his hands casually resting behind his back. Meanwhile, an unfamiliar white-haired elder quietly walked by in the opposite direction. Watching him leave, Yin Zhaoxian placed a hand behind his back and told his son, "Okay, they're gone. Let's head into the town guardian temple." Yin Qing simply nodded in agreement. Holding his son's hand, Zhaoxian led the way inside. But guys, as they walked in, that mysterious white-haired elder caught his attention. Zhaoxian narrowed his eyes in suspicion. He thought to himself, "Who is this elderly person? I should be able to recognize all the influential people in Ning'an County. Could he be an outsider too?" Shaking off his thoughts, he approached the local incense vendor and requested 3 sticks. The young vendor politely handed them over, advising him to be careful with them. With the incense in hand, the father and son finally stepped through the massive wooden doors of the temple. But as they stood before the grand incense burner, Zhaoxian looked around in confusion. He muttered, He's missing." He quickly asked his son if he had seen where the old man went. The young boy shook his head, admitting he hadn't seen him since they entered. Then, looking up nervously, he stammered, "Father, could it be a ghost?" Zhaoxian immediately scolded him, stating confidently that ghosts wouldn't dare enter the town guardian temple. Still, he found it incredibly strange, certain the man had entered the main hall. Deciding not to dwell on it, he brushed it off. "Trust me, guys, trying to figure out every weird thing in this town is a full-time job." Pushing the mystery aside, they both closed their eyes and respectfully bowed their heads in prayer. Zhaoxian carefully planted the 3 smoking sticks into the ash. He then softly told his son, "Now that we've finished our prayers, let's head back home." But when he turned around, Yin Qing was still kneeling on the mat, staring blankly ahead. Zhaoxian looked down and asked, "What is it, Qing?" The boy stared up at the grand, golden statue of the town guardian, a bead of sweat forming on his cheek. He stammered slightly as he pointed out that the statue looked exactly like the old man they had just seen outside. Shocked, Zhaoxian quickly looked back at the imposing statue. His eyes widened as the realization hit him. He thought to himself, "It really does look similar. Could it actually be?" But guys, nobody could have imagined this. Connecting the dots between the deity and the man he met outside, Zhaoxian realized just how mysterious Mr. Ji truly was. He firmly decided in his heart that if Ji Yuan was still safe after half a month in the haunted Serene Pavilion, he would personally take Qing to visit him. Meanwhile, in the next scene, a sharp snap echoed as a fresh bamboo branch was broken off. Ji Yuan stood outside his pavilion, casually chewing on the end of a bamboo stick. He grumbled internally, complaining that brushing his teeth was the most inconvenient thing about his new ancient life. I'm telling you guys, surviving monsters is easy, but surviving without a modern toothbrush? That's the real challenge. With a quick spit of water, he rinsed his mouth. He thought about how using salt would be much more practical, but given how expensive it was, it felt like a total waste to use it just for brushing. Bored out of his mind, Ji Yuan dramatically collapsed flat onto the stone courtyard floor. He sighed heavily, lamenting the absolute lack of internet, mobile phones, or even someone to chat with. He felt there was no point in even leaving the house unless there was a lively temple fair to visit. Staring blankly up at the sky, he groaned, comparing himself to a lonely old man. He genuinely wondered how his grandfather and uncle ever managed to pass the time back in the day without losing their minds. Suddenly, a spark of realization flashed in his eyes. He shot up and excitedly exclaimed, "Weiqi!" He remembered the mystical game board he had seen in his mind. Holding his hand out as glowing spiritual energy coursed through his arm, he realized the Weiqi piece that had appeared before it actually turned completely black. He concentrated as a bright, glowing sphere formed at his fingertips. He recalled how the original piece used to flicker, making it hard to tell its color, but now it was undeniably black. What's more, it was starting to feel solid. He wondered with awe if it was actually possible to physically play this piece on the mystical board. Sitting down to focus, he pondered why the piece had changed. An image of the terrifying many-eyed specter flashed in his mind. He realized it must have been connected to when he struck the evil creature the night before. If it had absorbed the dark miasma, just like the town guardian had said, he needed to test if he could purposefully absorb spiritual energy himself. With a deep breath, Ji Yuan sat perfectly still on a stone stool. A sudden gust of wind swept through the courtyard as he began to channel his focus, drawing energy from the air around him. As a bright, glowing orb materialized between his fingertips, a confident smile crossed his face. He thought, "Yes, very good." The spiritual suction grew intense, pulling violent gusts of wind through the ancient trees, causing the leaves to rustle wildly. But guys, the brilliant blue energy violently swirled around him, completely overwhelming his senses. He gritted his teeth, realizing it was way too much spiritual energy. He felt an immense, crushing weight, as if he were trying to lift a massive barbell with a single hand. Sweat dripped down his strained face as he squeezed his eyes shut. Panic setting in, he quickly decided he needed to disperse some of the overwhelming power first, and only try absorbing it again once it was safely thinned out. Gathering whatever control he had left, he prepared to carefully release the built-up energy, thinking it was finally time to harvest it properly. But suddenly, the massive orb flared wildly. Sizzling arcs of raw, chaotic lightning lashed out, violently shocking his entire body. He threw his head back and let out a loud, agonizing scream. The sheer pain was absolute torture. His face scrunched up in sheer agony as he desperately told himself he just had to endure it. The blinding blue energy surged through his veins, violently illuminating his entire nervous system like a network of glowing lightning beneath his skin. After what felt like an eternity, the chaotic storm finally faded. Ji Yuan collapsed onto his back, completely exhausted, with his arms spread wide. Letting out a heavy sigh, he weakly noted that he was lucky he managed to disperse most of it. Otherwise, accidentally blowing himself up with spiritual energy would have been an incredibly foolish way to go. Just as he lay there, trying to catch his breath, a polite voice echoed from the gate. One of the day rangers called out, announcing they had brought the books he requested. Barely able to move, Ji Yuan turned his head lazily and invited them in, admitting he was a little too exhausted to get up. Getting back on his feet, Ji Yuan walked over to find 3 intimidating day rangers standing around several massive, heavy wooden chests. The leading ranger gestured to the crates and respectfully explained that their lord had entrusted them to deliver all of it directly to him. Ji Yuan stared at the sheer volume of the delivery, a massive bead of sweat sliding down his pale face. Completely overwhelmed, he nervously gulped and thought, "This is a lot." A spectral voice echoed in the room, asking, "Mr. Ji, where do you think these books should be placed?" Ji Yuan calmly replied, "Please, carry them to my room." But guys, Ji Yuan watched in utter disbelief as the ghostly night rangers carried the heavy wooden chests right through his solid doors. He thought to himself, "Wait, if they phase through the door, won't the actual books be left behind?" Just then, a heavy thud echoed through the room as the spectral guard firmly placed the chest onto the wooden floor. Ji Yuan smiled softly, closing his eyes to appreciate the weight of the sound. "That is the sound of the real thing," he murmured to himself. "What a marvelous technique of transportation." The Night Rangers bowed respectfully, their mission complete. "Mr. Ji, the books have been delivered. We will take our leave now." Ji Yuan pressed his hands together, gratefully saying, "Thank you all." Afterwards, Ji Yuan eagerly pulled the lid off the chest. "It's a bamboo scroll," he exclaimed, surprised by the ancient format. He unrolled the heavy bamboo slats, a look of immense relief washing over his face. "The words on it are all deeply engraved," he noted, chuckling warmly. "Lord Song really has a heart. Now, it will be so much easier for me to read. Look, guys, when you're practically blind like Ji Yuan, having embossed text is an absolute lifesaver. It's basically ancient Braille." In the next scene, Ji Yuan found a quiet, breezy spot under a large tree, sitting perfectly still in deep meditation. His fingers gently traced the carved characters on the wood, feeling every stroke. He thought confidently, "I really am a genius. I can actually understand such an obscure and difficult subject." He read the ancient text aloud, feeling the weight of the ancient wisdom. Yin and Yang, the 5 elements to attract the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, to cleanse one's body, to cultivate trueness. He smiled gently, realizing that even if this Dao Chi Ju was just a basic exercise, to a mere mortal, it was the ultimate gateway to power. Clapping his hands together with a sharp, echoing slap, his eyes burned with determination. "Well, I know the theory. Let's try it." He took a deep, steadying breath. Instantly, his consciousness expanded, plunging into a vast cosmic void. He felt the deep connection between the universe and his own physical body. He pondered, cultivation is about understanding the immensity of heaven and earth and grasping the power of the great Tao. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open, blazing with an intense, profound focus as ancient characters flashed through his mind. What happens next will completely shock you guys. Shimmering blue orbs of spiritual energy began to manifest in the air around him, glowing brightly against the night. Ji Yuan gasped softly. I can actually see the aura around me. He reached out, gently pinching one of the floating orbs. It popped with a soft fizz, sending a wave of warmth through his hand. It's not as overwhelming as before, he observed. It's not numb, not painful, just incredibly relaxing. A warm, peaceful smile spread across his face. This is the right way to absorb chi, right? He thought. Later that night, still buzzing with magical energy, he glanced over at his massive collection of scrolls. Let's look at the others, he decided. He picked up another heavy scroll, examining the title in the dim light. The Essence of Talismans? Yes, let's see what this is about. As he read, his mind raced with the incredible possibilities, visualizing the blindfold method, mastering explosive fire control techniques, and manipulating powerful currents of water. Overjoyed, he threw his arms up, holding the scroll high into the air. Even if these are only basic techniques, I can still glimpse the true mysteries of this universe, he laughed. This world is really amazing. Hungry for even more knowledge, he rummaged deep into the wooden chest. Well, what else is hiding in here? He pulled out 2 more scrolls, raising an eyebrow in surprise. Chest scriptures? Oh, and there's also a secret manual of martial arts. He sat back down, reading the contents with deep fascination. The 2 kung fu disciplines, iron punishment and eagle-grasping hands. They say the moves are strong, easy to use, and considered to be the absolute best martial arts. Tossing the scrolls lightly into the air, he smirked confidently. Once I finish the cultivation books, I'll definitely take time to practice martial arts. It's never a bad idea to have a few self-protection measures, right? Before he knew it, the sun was rising over the misty mountains, and a rooster's loud crow pierced the quiet morning air. Ji Yuan let out a massive yawn, rubbing a tear of sheer exhaustion from his eye. He stretched his stiff arms, leaning heavily against the thick trunk of the tree. I've been reading all night long, he groaned playfully. Looking up at the lush canopy, he smiled warmly at the tree. This jujube tree is so big, it's going to be packed with fruit come harvest season. He chuckled, patting the rough bark. You were the only one who spent the entire night reading with me, so I guess I wasn't really alone. After this, time began to quietly slip away. For the next 6 months, Ji Yuan isolated himself, living a peaceful life of forgetfulness and intense study. Every night, he sat perfectly still beneath the glowing tree, expertly gathering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to slowly transform his mortal body. In his spare time, he tirelessly practiced his martial arts forms and studied complex chess games. Aside from grabbing dinner in town, his new life felt far more fulfilling than his previous one on Earth. His progress was absolutely staggering. Holding a simple wooden stick, he balanced perfectly on the delicate leaves of a small bush, light as a feather. With a swift, fluid motion, he leaped gracefully through the air, the wind rushing past his robes as he wielded the stick like a master swordsman. He landed gently on a pile of scattered leaves, his footstep making nothing more than a soft, barely audible tap. Gripping the branch tightly, he swung it with incredible power, generating a massive vortex of swirling wind that tore through the quiet courtyard. Smirking, he clenched his fist, feeling the raw power coursing through his veins. With my intelligence and this spiritual energy, he boasted proudly, my cultivation speed is absolutely insane. As the golden sunset bathed the ancient courtyard, our protagonist, Ji Yuan, stood outside his home. He stretched his arms and said calmly, it's time to go out for dinner. Then he strolled gracefully through the bustling streets of Ning'an County, his grayish-blue robes fluttering slightly in the evening breeze. Afterwards, he arrived at a lively local food spot, marked by the large, inviting banners of the Sun Noodle stall. Stepping past the fabric partitions, Ji Yuan smiled and called out, Mr. Sun, I have come to eat noodles. The older cook, wiping his hands, instantly beamed, Yo, Mr. Ji is here, please come in. Taking a seat at a rustic wooden table, Ji Yuan raised a single finger and requested comfortably, Okay, the old style. Meanwhile, the young boy, Yin Qing, alongside his father, the scholar Yin Zhaoxian was going from the street. Ji Yuan eagerly ordered a bowl of stewed noodles, to which Mr. Sun cheerfully agreed. Yin Qing pointed toward Ji Yuan and said, Dad, it is Mr. Ji. Yin Zhaoxian's eyes widened in sheer disbelief as he caught a glimpse of a very familiar face. He secretly watched Ji Yuan quietly sipping his tea. The scholar thought to himself in pure astonishment. It has already been half a month. Yet this Mr. Ji is still ruddy and perfectly safe. Suddenly, panic kicked in. With a swift grab, Yin Zhaoxian yanked his son by the arm, trying to hastily drag him away toward the supposedly haunted man. Just then, to save face, Yin Zhaoxian loudly ordered, Mr. Sun, please have 2 bowls of lo mein ready. Mr. Sun warmly called out, Oh my, Mr. Yin is here, please have a seat. The scholar was completely trapped by the warm welcome. Now honestly, anyone would panic here. Yin Qing sat rigidly on the wooden bench, his face flushed red with awkwardness, while Ji Yuan simply continued to enjoy his tea at the very next table, completely unbothered. Yin Zhaoxian, ready to pretend that it is a coincidence, said, "You are Mr. G, right? I heard that there is a new scholar in the city. If not for the heavy workload of the school, would have wanted to visit you." Poor boy sweated nervously, thinking to himself, "It is the very first time I've seen my father so good at pretending." Breaking the tension, Ji Yuan placed his cup down and smiled warmly at the scholar. He casually remarked, "I have heard that Mr. Yin of Tinyo Square is very knowledgeable. Look, I'm telling you guys, Ji Yuan's internal monologue here is hilarious." He playfully thought, "I was supposed to simply meet them by chance, but unfortunately I already saw them." He mentally pictured the father and son awkwardly trying to run away before turning back around. Ji Yuan then turned his attention to the blushing boy. "I guess little Yin Qing is your son, right? I'm sure he is from a good family, and you have raised such a good child." Surprised, the boy replied, "Mr. G, you still remember me?" With a bright, melodic laugh, Ji Yuan replied, "Ha ha, I always remember the kindness of that heavy load of water." He then gestured gracefully, "If you do not mind, how about sitting at the same table with me?" Yin Qing shyly rubbed the back of his head, visibly embarrassed. Ji Yuan gently added, "Of course, if little Yin Qing is afraid, just treat it as if I did not say it. I remember you did not dare to enter the serene pavilion." After this, Yin Zhaoxian quickly stepped forward, escorting his son to Ji Yuan's table. He bowed slightly and declared politely, "We dare not refuse Mr. G's kind invitation, so we will not be polite." In the next scene, a wonderful aroma filled the air as Mr. Sun brought over a large wooden tray holding 3 steaming, beautiful bowls of hot noodles topped with eggs and fresh greens. As Mr. Sun placed the bowls down, he respectfully said, "Mr. G, please eat slowly." Ji Yuan immediately responded with a warm smile. "Okay, thank you very much." Watching this exchange, Yin Zhaoxian internally noted in surprise, Mr. G actually treats a simple noodle stall owner with such deep courtesy. Mr. Sun put a bowl in front of Yin Zhaoxian and said, "Please enjoy your meal." He nervously murmured, "Thanks a lot." The old cook then scratched his head, laughing awkwardly but happily. "Hey, you are too kind. It is really nothing." Afterwards, as Yin Zhaoxian began to eat, he observed Ji Yuan closely. He thought to himself that although a scholar like him did not despise ordinary folks like Mr. Sun, he still naturally considered himself superior to them. Slurping his noodles happily, Ji Yuan pondered on his own modern values. He thought, "I thanked him, and he did not look superior by not thanking me. It has just been a habit of mine for generations to thank service staff." But guys, nobody could have imagined how deeply this simple act would resonate. A powerful vision of the world's strict social pyramid flashed in Yin Zhaoxian's mind, from emperors to humble peasants. He realized that in this world, the class mentality was absolute. Yin Zhaoxian carefully placed a piece of meat into his son's bowl. "Qing, eat," he said softly. He reflected on Ji Yuan's profound humility, realizing that a true teacher of the people should hold themselves to a much higher standard of virtue. Once they finished, Ji Yuan raised his hand and called out, "Bill, please." But Yin Zhaoxian immediately stood up, insisting, "Mr. Ji, please let me pay for this meal." Ji Yuan closed his eyes with a gentle smile and graciously accepted. Mr. Yin is so generous, and it is better to obey his kindness. Then, as Ji Yuan stood up to leave, he glanced back at the scholar. "However, I will leave a message from Master Yin. What happens next will completely shock you guys." Ji Yuan delivered a profound truth with absolute calm, saying, "The peddler is also the mirror of society. The person who teaches the virtues is the teacher of the people." The impact of those words left a devastating mark on Yin Zhaoxian's pride. He froze entirely, his eyes wide with absolute awe and realization. A few moments later, Yin Qing tugged at the frozen scholar. "Dad, Mr. G is gone. When shall we go home?" Startled, Yin Zhaoxian nervously fumbled with his chopsticks. Letting out a long, heavy sigh, the humbled father finally spoke. "Come on, let's finish eating and head back home." As they walked away through the quiet marketplace, Yin Zhaoxian made a firm decision. "Tomorrow morning, we will visit Mr. G." In the next scene, the early morning light touched the stone steps of the serene pavilion. The father and son stood nervously before the large wooden doors. Taking a deep breath, Yin Zhaoxian noticed something incredible. He thought to himself, "This place used to be so gloomy, but now it just feels fresh and natural. Even the breathing here is smooth. It is truly wonderful." He slowly raised his trembling hand, ready to lightly tap against the aged wood of the door. Suddenly, before his knuckles even touched the surface, Ji Yuan's calm voice echoed from within. "Come in. The gate is unlocked." Trust me, guys, they were not expecting that. Both Yin Zhaoxian and little Yin Qing stood frozen in their tracks, sweating nervously while awkwardly clutching a small basket of fresh apples. Ji Yuan smiled warmly at his guest, holding a bamboo scroll in his hands. He said, "Well, if Mr. Yin is coming, just come. You don't have to bring anything." Yin brought a basket of fresh apples and a jug of fine wine as a gift. He replied respectfully, "This is my first visit to your home, and I hope you will accept these. Mr. G, your words yesterday truly enlightened me." Suddenly, Yin's eyes fell upon the object in Ji Yuan's hands. He asked with curiosity, "Mr. Ji, is that a bamboo scroll?" Ji Yuan gently touched the carved characters on the ancient scroll. He explained, "That's right, it is a bamboo scroll. Due to the limitations of my eyes, it is impossible for me to read regular books." Afterwards, they all sat together at the courtyard table. Ji Yuan said, "I heard you were going to be the new schoolmaster of the county. I haven't even come to congratulate you. Yet I made you visit me personally. I don't really know how to prepare for the school." Yin Zhaoxian smiled warmly and waved his hand, replying, "Thanks to your kindness, the school is fully ready. We will start accepting classes in 2 days." Then, Yin noticed the heavy stone covering the courtyard well. He asked, "Mr. Ji, you have a well right here. Why you still go outside to fetch water?" "Look, I'm telling you guys, if only he knew what terrifying monster was hiding in that well just a few days ago." Ji Yuan's expression turned slightly serious. He explained, "This well was once contaminated with unclean things. Although I am not overly obsessed with cleanliness, I did not want to drink water from this well." Hearing this, Yin Zhaoxian broke a nervous sweat, glancing sideways at the heavy stone seal. Now, honestly, anyone would panic here. Changing the subject, Yin noticed another scroll on the table. He asked, "Does Mr. Ji like to play Weiqi?" Ji Yuan humbly replied that he was only slightly involved in the game. Relieved by the lighter topic, Yin smiled brightly. "I know a little bit about the game myself. Would you like to play a few matches with me someday?" Ji Yuan laughed heartily. "Haha, all right." The two of them started a long, deep conversation about the board game, talking endlessly in the peaceful courtyard. Meanwhile, little Yin Qing just rested his chin on his hands, quietly listening to the adults. As the conversation deepened, Yin Zhaoxian realized just how profound Ji Yuan's knowledge was. It wasn't just a simple game. It felt like the unpredictable forces of astronomy and geography were all inextricably connected on that board. Yin thought to himself that Ji Yuan's insights were incredibly unique and unheard of. Yet, despite seemingly knowing everything about the cosmos, Ji Yuan frequently sought Yin's advice on simple, secular matters. Afterwards, the father and son finally said their goodbyes, leaving the pavilion just as noon approached. Little Yin Qing let out a big, sleepy yawn. Ji Yuan watched them leave with a warm smile. He thought to himself how refreshing it was to chat with someone so knowledgeable, yet not pedantic, someone he could truly speak freely with. In the next scene, Ji Yuan turned his attention to the large jug of Huadiao wine that Yin had gifted him. With a satisfying pop, he easily pulled the heavy wooden stopper from the jug. And guys, this is where it gets interesting. With a simple hand gesture, Ji Yuan smoothly guided a clear stream of wine straight from the jug and into his mouth. He wiped his mouth, smiling confidently. He murmured to himself, "Well, this little water manipulation technique is quite handy for a beginner." Meanwhile, deep in the dark mountains, the peaceful night was suddenly shattered. A flock of birds scattered into the sky as sharp, metallic clangs echoed through the dense trees. Down below, the thief named Xiang Feng was running for his life. With quick reflexes, he swung his heavy sword, deflecting a barrage of deadly throwing stars that rained down on him. Close on his tail were several fast, agile pursuers, leaping flawlessly from branch to branch through the shadowy forest. The furious leader, Old Man Fan, lunged forward with a powerful strike. He roared, "Xiang Feng, hand over the sword in tent post, and I might just spare you a painful end." Xiang Feng gritted his teeth, his blade clashing fiercely against his pursuers. He spat back, "Your arrogance knows no bounds." A massive surge of energy erupted as their weapons collided, sending shockwaves through the sturdy tree trunks. The Fan family fighters were relentless, launching a coordinated attack with their razor-sharp throwing blades cutting through the cool night air. Suddenly, Xiang Feng left an opening. A heavy blade struck his shoulder, and a crimson mist filled the air as he let out an agonizing cry of pain. Losing his balance, the injured thief crashed violently through the thick branches, plummeting toward the dark forest floor below. The Fan family warriors quickly touched down right after him, their expressions cold and ready to end the chase. Panting heavily and leaning against a large tree, Xiang Feng thought to himself, "We assumed stealing the sword in tent post would be easy. I never expected the old man of the Fan family to be this fierce." He realized the terrifying truth. To hunt them down, the Fan family had actually called upon the entire Ding Yuan martial arts community. Old Man Fan descended from the trees like a bird of prey. Xiang Feng remembered the terrifying bounty placed on his head. Whoever ended their group would be rewarded with the legendary sword post itself. Old Man Fan's eyes burned with absolute fury. He shouted. The sword in tent post was left by the sword immortal Zwimadu on his deathbed. Its words contain his ultimate sword moves. He continued his furious charge. "Did a mere thief like you presume you could understand the post? Did you think you could find the tomb, take exclusive possession of his secrets, and claim the divine weapon for yourself?" Old Man Fan gripped his sword tightly, roaring, "Such treasures must never fall into the hands of evil men. Moreover, the 13 thieves of Yindi must face justice for those they've destroyed." But guys, the real twist hasn't even started yet. Just as the intense battle was reaching its climax, a thunderous roar suddenly shook the entire mountain. It was the massive mystic tiger, Lu Shanjun. Back in the quiet town, the powerful roar echoed all the way to the town guardian temple, blasting the heavy wooden doors open with a fierce gust of wind. Inside, the town guardian, Song Shichong, stood tall. He sighed deeply, his expression grave. Alas, I'm afraid the mountain beast has become furious tonight. Meanwhile, sitting majestically under the moonlight, Lu Shanjun felt his power growing. He thought to himself, perhaps in just a few more years, I will finally break the shackles of a mere demon, and then I will be able to travel the outer world freely. Just then, the giant beast's ears twitched. He narrowed his glowing yellow eyes toward the dark woods and growled softly. Huh? Someone is approaching my territory. What happens next will completely shock you guys. Friends, the chase through the dark forest is absolutely relentless. The Fan family flunkies leap rapidly through the thick branches, determined to hunt down the escaping thieves. Xiang Feng runs frantically, clutching his shoulder. He thought, I planned to use the forest to escape, but these 6 people didn't give a single chance at all. Meanwhile, his bamboo hat bandits are struggling to hold the line against the rapid assault. One bandit desperately shouted, Big brother, we can't go on like this. We can't outlast them. Another swung his blade, yelling, Curse it. If it doesn't work, just fight ahead. Just then, sensing the absolute doom closing in, Xiang Feng grips the stolen treasure tightly. With a powerful leap, he lands heavily on a giant boulder, narrowly dodging a massive, bright energy slash that tears through the air. The shockwave sends debris flying everywhere. One of the surviving bandits shouted, Big brother. Suddenly, Xiang Feng holds the prize scroll high in the air for everyone to see. He shouted, You crazy dog, you just want to get the sword intent post. I'll tear up this insult of an intent post, if I'm forced. That threat hits like a brick. Old Man Fan and his flunkies instantly skid to a halt, kicking up clouds of dust as they stop their relentless charge. Look, I'm telling you guys, Old Man Fan is way too confident here. He simply smirks and taunts. You still want to destroy the sword intent post at the end of your life. But Xiang Feng isn't backing down. He flashes a wicked grin and replies, Well, you can think that way, but would others? If the Fan family's insights were actually useful, they would have found the best swordsmanship and divine weapons already. The taunt completely strikes a nerve. Old Man Fan's confident smirk vanishes, replaced by wide-eyed fury and a heavy sweat. The tension is suffocating as Xiang Feng stands elevated on the rock, completely surrounded, with both sides locked in a deadly standoff. But inwardly, Xiang Feng is panicking. He sweats nervously, thinking, I can't take the sword intent post with me. I have to think of a way to escape. Suddenly, an eerie gust of wind howls through the dark forest under the pale moonlight. Using the wind to his advantage, Xiang Feng violently throws the priceless scroll high into the stormy sky. Old Man Fan completely loses his composure, his eyes bulging with panic as he screamed, Not good. Sword intent post. Driven by pure greed, Old Man Fan leaps fiercely towards the falling treasure, commanding his men, Grab it. And guys, this is exactly what the thieves were waiting for. Xiang Feng and his bandit brother instantly bolt in the opposite direction. Opportunity, he shouted. Run away. One of the Fan family flunkies leaps up, stretching his hand toward the falling scroll with a victorious smile. Got it, he cheered. But just as his fingers brush the treasure, a violent, swirling gust of wind snatches the scroll straight out of the air, leaving the flunky grasping at nothing. The Fan family members crash down onto the dirt empty-handed, completely stunned by the bizarre phenomenon. Furious, Old Man Fan violently punches the solid rock beside him, cracking the stone with a heavy thud. He roared, Curse it! Loss of work. One of his men nervously points out, This wind is too evil. The evil thieves have sneaked away, still chasing or not. Old Man Fan scowls, Let's find a sword intent post first. Then the furious pursuers launch themselves into the night sky with a sharp swoosh, desperate to track down the stolen treasure. But guys, nobody could have imagined this. The wind carries the legendary scroll deep into a dark cave, dropping it right between the massive paws of Lu Shanjun, the fearsome mystic tiger. The ancient scroll unrolls completely across the stone floor with a soft sliding sound. The giant tiger leans in, his glowing yellow eyes scanning the text. He thought, Good word. Unfortunately, it is not surprising. He continues to study the profound calligraphy, his majestic face bathed in golden light. He murmured, Such a good word. Not as. Afterwards, Lu Shanjun steps out of the dark woods, exhaling thick, misty breaths into the cool night air with a deep, rumbling hum. Then he pinned a fox down and said, I have known that you, the fox, have become wise and often go down to Ning'an County to steal chickens and ducks from the farmers. Have you ever met a blind expert who once lived in the Weifeng Shan temple? The sneaky bandit fox is trembling uncontrollably, tears welling in its eyes as a massive tiger claw rests on its tiny head. The poor fox is having a flashback to Ji Yuan mumbling, Millimetersum. Sleep? Really comfortable? Lu Shanjun drops the rolled-up scroll right in front of the terrified fox's nose, his booming voice echoing, "Just do one thing for me." Looming over the tiny creature, the massive tiger instructed, "There are my hairs on this top, so the sir should not be able to attack you. But also remember not to disturb sir's quietness. Remember?" The majestic beast sits tall, declaring, "This is also your good fortune. Go. If you lose the post, you will face my wrath." Terrified for its life, the little fox grabs the scroll in its mouth and sprints away. Watching the little messenger disappear, Lu Shanjun rests his heavy chin on his paw, thinking proudly, sending calligraphy and painting is not a cliché. Trust me, this giant beast is secretly a massive fanboy. He imagines a chibi version of Ji Yuan patting his head, saying, "The gift from Lu Shanjun is really good. I really like it." Blushing furiously, the tiger thought, "Wherever it is, as long as the sir likes it." With a happy bounce in his step, the great mystic tiger strolls back into the forest, with a cheerful musical hum. Morning arrived with a gentle breeze, rustling the golden leaves in the quiet courtyard. Ji Yuan stepped outside, taking a deep breath as he stretched his arms wide toward the sky. He playfully announced to the morning air, "I sleep alone at sunrise, but unfortunately, I am not a god. Go eat." Afterwards, he strolled casually down the bustling streets of the county, taking in the lively atmosphere as the townsfolk went about their daily business. Suddenly, the peaceful morning was shattered by a fierce, aggressive barking that echoed down the street. Ji Yuan paused, glancing over his shoulder with a curious, wondering what could be causing such a commotion in the middle of town. A terrifying scene unfolded before him. Two massive, collared hounds were viciously attacking a small red fox. The townsfolk gasped in shock, yelling, "Oh, whose dog is so fierce? And hey, it's a fox. The dog is going to bite it to death." The poor fox whimpered, desperately clenching a small scroll in its mouth. Ji Yuan moved swiftly like air is moving between the crowd. A muscular man with a leopard print sash raised his wooden club, shouting at the hounds, "Bad dog, let go." The hounds finally backed off, looking utterly confused as the injured fox collapsed onto the stone pavement, letting out a pitiful whimper. Seeing an opportunity, the brawler eagerly reached out to grab the helpless animal, laughing greedily. This fox is mine. Look, I'm telling you guys, some people only see a quick payday when they look at a beautiful creature like this." But the little fox wasn't giving up so easily. With a sudden burst of energy, it leaped into the air, completely surprising the man. The crowd scrambled as the fox darted between their legs. The townsfolk yelped in surprise, calling out, "This little fox is so cunning." The furious hounds immediately gave chase, their eyes locked on their prey as their master ordered, "Don't let it go." Exhausted and severely injured, the little fox skidded across the hard stone, losing its balance as its strength finally gave out. One of the massive hounds lunged through the air, baring its sharp fangs for a finishing strike. Just then, Ji Yuan stepped right into the path of danger. With a swift, elegant sweep of his long sleeve, he effortlessly blocked the aggressive hound. The little fox trembled behind him, its large eyes welling up with tears as it let out a soft, heartbreaking cry. Safe at last, the exhausted fox slumped onto the ground behind Ji Yuan, while the bewildered hound stood frozen, intimidated by the scholar's calm presence. The crowd was absolutely stunned. One bystander gasped, "Wow, isn't the fox becoming a spirit? Is it actually begging for someone?" Another whispered, "Who is that person?" A local quickly chimed in, "Mr. Ji from Tianyou Fong, good friend of Master Yin." "Yes, everybody says he is a strange person. He has lived in Juanxiaoga for a few months." But guys, this is where the story gets interesting. Ji Yuan noticed something peculiar. The rope binding the small scroll the fox carried was made of tiger hair. Lu Shanjuan's tiger hair, to be exact. Realization washed over Ji Yuan as he calmly assessed the situation. He thought to himself, this red fox has intelligence, but was almost ended. It shouldn't be a monster, and it's not hostile. Looking down at the pitiful creature shivering at his feet, he realized the heartbreaking truth. Besides, it is obvious that he came to see me, so he was injured because of me. Ji Yuan turned to the brawler with a polite but firm smile. "I wonder if his brother will give up this red fox to Ji," he offered smoothly. "The skin of the bitten skin is not worth a few taels. I will take it for 100 pieces of taels as a favor to me." "How?" The brawler awkwardly scratched his head, clearly lured by the generous offer. He quickly agreed, saying, "If you want it, Mr. Ji, take it." Ji Yuan gracefully handed over a heavy stack of coins to the grateful man, securing the fox's safety. Holding the injured fox gently in his arms, Ji Yuan looked down at the hovering dogs with a warm smile. How are you going away too? I didn't bring any fleshy bones," he teased playfully. As if understanding his words, the once fierce hounds tucked their tails and obediently turned away from the majestic scholar. The gathered townsfolk could only watch in awe, breathing out a collective wow at the incredible scene they just witnessed. With the crowd distracted, Ji Yuan let out a relieved sigh, smiling as he held the frail fox. "Everyone is gone," he noted. In the blink of an eye, Ji Yuan vanished into a blur of mystical energy, darting out of the alleyway faster than the eye could follow. An older townsman blinked in sheer confusion, spinning around and asking, "Huh? Where's he?" Meanwhile, a trail of fresh crimson drops stained the stone pavement, a grim reminder of how little time the fox had left. Ji Yuan raced through the streets, channeling a surge of spiritual energy directly into the fox's fragile body. He muttered in sheer panic. It was hurt too badly, so to the hospital. In another part of town, Dr. Tong was calmly seeing a patient off at his clinic. "Remember to take tonic once in the morning and once in the evening," he advised kindly. Suddenly, the patient was startled by a powerful gust of wind that ripped through the quiet clinic. Ji Yuan materialized out of thin air, panting heavily as he presented the battered fox. "Dr. Tong, please help me see if this fox can be saved," he pleaded urgently. Poor Dr. Tong broke into a nervous sweat, completely overwhelmed by the sudden intrusion. He stammered that he had never healed any livestock, let alone beasts. Ji Yuan wasn't taking no for an answer. With burning determination, he urged, "Dr. Tong, as they say, a healer is kind-hearted, and the life of a fox is also a life. So please do try it." Moved by his sincerity, the doctor finally relented, saying, "Then, I will try. Please follow me to the inner hall." The doctor immediately pointed at his two wide-eyed clinic assistants, commanding them, "You two look at the store." The young men nodded enthusiastically. With no time to lose, Dr. Tong ushered Ji Yuan into the back room, preparing for the most unusual surgery of his medical career. "Trust me, guys, this doctor is about to experience the wildest day of his life." Doctor started examining the poor fox. While checking, HR thought, "This fox doesn't have an arm length, but has a strong pulse. It's weird. Why does this pulse have a lack of energy and blood?" Ji Yuan carefully held the scroll, deeply lost in thought. He realized the mysterious tiger, Lu Shanjun, must have asked the fox to deliver this painting to him. He muttered to himself, "I must preserve its life." Meanwhile, back at the clinic, Dr. Tong was examining the poor creature. He explained that the fox had been bitten in many places, and he needed to use special ash powder supplemented with golden sore medicine to stop the bleeding. Ji Yuan nodded urgently. "Okay, Dr. Tong, please help." Doctor asked him to hold the fox down, just to prevent it from thrashing in pain. Ji Yuan nervously agreed. Both the assistant and tried to listen from outside. Suddenly, a piercing screech echoed from behind the heavy curtain. The terrifying sound made the assistants clap their hands over their ears in pure shock. "Look, guys, treating a wild magical beast is definitely not covered in standard medical training." After what felt like an eternity, Dr. Tong finally emerged from the back room, looking completely exhausted, while Ji Yuan waited anxiously near the door. Both the assistant looked at him while suiting, but Ji Yuan just patted the fur with care. Afterwards, Ji Yuan tied up the wrapped medicine. He noted that the consultation was completely free, but the herbs cost 30 yuan. He also realized the medicine was extremely bitter, so getting the fox to drink it would be a huge challenge. He bowed slightly and said, "Thank you, Dr. Tong. I am very grateful." As Ji Yuan calmly walked away, Dr. Tong watched him leave and let out a massive sigh of relief. His assistants rushed over to the counter, practically shaking. They nervously asked what had happened to him, terrified by the scary sounds the fox had made. Dr. Tong wiped the cold sweat from his brow. "Do you think I'm not afraid?" he scolded. "That's not an ordinary fox. It's a fox spirit. And what's even more frightening is that it dared to appear in public." In the next scene, we see young Yin Xing running excitedly to his mother in their courtyard. "Mother," he called out, "on the way back with my father today, we heard people talking about Mr. G." The boy excitedly explained that a red fox was spotted in the market being chased by a huge yellow dog. But amazingly, the fox escaped to Mr. G's feet and actually bowed to him. Mrs. Yin covered her mouth in absolute shock. "Huh? Is there really such a thing?" she gasped. She quickly turned to her husband, Yin Zhaoxian, who was calmly reading a book, to ask if the rumors were true. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. "It should be true. When I returned, many people asked me about Mr. G. I heard the fox was treated by Dr. Tong." Suddenly, polite knocks echoed from their open door. Ji Yuan stood there with a warm smile. "Haha, I didn't think the news would spread so quickly," he chuckled. "Hello, Master Yin, I am here for a visit." But guys, the entire Yin family jumped out of their skin, completely startled by his sudden appearance. Recovering quickly, Yin Zhaoxian warmly invited him in and asked his wife to brew some tea. But Ji Yuan waved his hand politely. "No need. I actually just came to borrow a medicine furnace and pot. I wonder if you have one." Smiled warmly, his eyes crinkling, and immediately agreed to fetch it for his friend. Just then, young Yin Xing came sprinting back, carefully carrying a heavy black teapot in his hands. "Dad, the medicine furnace is here," he announced proudly. Ji Yuan gently patted the boy's head, smiling warmly. "Thanks for the help, little Yin Xing," he said. Holding the pot, Ji Yuan turned back to his host. "Mr. Yin, I have things to tend to at home, so I won't bother you any longer," Yin Zhaoxian said. "If you ever need anything, please feel free to ask." As Ji Yuan prepared to leave, he noticed Yin Xing standing by the door, fidgeting with excitement. The boy finally burst out. "Mr. G, I have never seen a fox before. Can I go and see it?" I promise to listen. Yin Zhaoxian's eyes widened in panic. Qinger, don't mess around. Come back, he scolded sharply. Ji Yuan simply laughed it off. Mr. Yin, don't blame him. He's at an innocent age and is naturally curious. Let him come with me. I'll bring him back before dinner. Yin Qing threw his hands up in the air, cheering. Haha, that's great. I'm telling you guys, fathers can be so dramatic. Yin Zhaoxian forced a polite smile for his guest, but inside he was absolutely fuming. He thought, you little brat, why didn't you suggest we go see it together? I want to see it too. Later, back at Ji Yuan's place, the furry red ear of the resting fox twitched at the sound of approaching footsteps. The fox, wrapped heavily in white bandages, peeked over the edge of the stone table as Ji Yuan and Yin Qing walked into the courtyard. Yo, can you stand up? Ji Yuan asked casually. The little fox struggled onto a soft pillow, its small legs trembling as it tried its absolute best to remain upright. Ji Yuan gently gestured between the two. Little red fox, this is the son of a friend. Don't worry about him. He then warned the boy, Yin Qing. He is seriously injured, so try not to disturb his rest, got it? The boy nodded obediently, his eyes wide with fascination. Yin Qing leaned in closely to look at the creature. Does it hurt? He asked softly. The fox recoiled slightly with a sharp hiss. I won't hurt you, Yin Qing quickly promised. Watching them, Ji Yuan smiled to himself and went to brew the medicine, thinking how these two were completely on different wavelengths. After a while, Ji Yuan returned holding a steaming bowl of dark liquid. Here, the medicine is ready, he announced. He kept the bowl near the fox, saying, Good boy, drink it, it's good for your health. The fox cautiously leaned forward and began to lap up the bitter, black brew with its tongue. Suddenly, a brilliant blue aura flared around the little creature's body. Pure spiritual energy practically radiated off its fur as it drank. Feeling the incredible effects, the fox threw caution to the wind and began greedily gulping down the entire bowl in seconds. Ji Yuan watched with a satisfied smile. I'll mix some spiritual energy into the medicine, so it should help you heal much faster, he explained smoothly. Preparing to leave again, Ji Yuan addressed the room. Okay, I'll go to the market to buy some food, and then take Yin Qing home. Goodbye, little fox. He paused and added with a warning smirk. And don't let me find out that any of the neighbors are suddenly missing their chickens or ducks, understand? Meanwhile, at the local market, rumors were already spreading. The headband butcher gossiped with his customers, whispering, Hey, did you hear? The fox saw him and worshipped him. Even a yellow dog ran away in fear. When the shoppers gasped, Ah, is there really such a miracle? Just then, the butcher looked up, his face lighting up with a wide grin. He called out enthusiastically, Yo, Mr. G. Ji Yuan approached the stall, looking as calm as ever, while the nearby basket-carrying shoppers glanced at him. He politely asked, Hello, I want to buy some chicken meat. The butcher paused his chopping and offered, Do you want a freshly slaughtered hen? Ji Yuan nodded. Okay, give me a freshly slaughtered one, and a live one. The butcher happily agreed, Good, while the caged chickens clucked nervously in the background. Look, guys, you just know that live chicken is questioning its life choices right now. Leaning in, butcher calmly asked, Mr. G, I heard people say that you saved a fox in the morning. Internally, he thought, even if the times are different, the desire to pursue gossip is the same, he replied. When he was chased by a yellow bog and fled to my feet, he saw his miserable appearance and felt compassionate, so he saved him. As Ji Yuan paid and turned to leave, the butcher praised him loudly. Mr. G is really a kind person. Do good and accumulate virtue. After this, Ji Yuan arrived back at the serene pavilion. The heavy wooden doors creaked open as he stepped inside, casually holding the fresh poultry. The live chicken flapped its wings frantically, shedding feathers everywhere in a desperate struggle. Inside, the injured red fox perked up immediately. Its bright eyes widened as it barked happily. Ji Yuan smiled warmly, gently petting the little fox's head. Today, we will eat the slaughtered chicken first, he promised, and then we will give you the live chicken when you have recovered a bit. As evening approached, the sun slowly dipped behind the mountains, casting a beautiful golden glow over the courtyard. Then a steaming, delicious-looking bowl of food was brought out. Here comes the chicken stew, Ji Yuan announced. The little fox didn't waste a single second, eagerly gulping down the savory stew with soft, hungry sounds. While the fox ate, Ji Yuan raised his hand, channeling a swirl of bright blue spiritual energy to his fingertips. He gently tapped the fox's head, whispering, Heaven and earth transformation. A brilliant blue aura enveloped the little creature, healing it from the inside out. Watching the fox devour its meal, while glowing with energy, Ji Yuan smiled in relief. His appetite is not bad, he noted, and he seems to be recovering well. Suddenly, Ji Yuan remembered the mysterious item he had acquired earlier. He pulled out a tied scroll, murmuring, Right, look what Lu Shanjun has sent this fox to. He unrolled the heavy parchment, expecting to read its contents. Good word, he started to say, before freezing in absolute shock. No, but guys, this is where the story gets interesting. As he stared at the scroll, phantom figures of swordsmen leaped from the ink, performing flawless techniques. Ji Yuan realized, This is not a word at all. It is the sword technique. There is no spiritual energy and no mysterious techniques on this writing, and it is not written by a cultivator of immortality. His eyes widened in sheer awe. However, the sword techniques written on it can form sword intent and contain wisdom. I never imagined that martial arts swordsmanship could be so exquisite. With a sharp snap, he rolled the scroll back up, deeply moved by what he had witnessed. He closed his eyes respectfully and sighed. The martial artist who wrote this post must be a person of great talent and brilliance. I wonder if he is still alive. Afterward, a strange realization hit him. He scratched his head, utterly confused. Wait, he muttered. Why is it that even when I think about things, I'm still thinking in terms of words? Curiosity taking over, he picked up a simple wooden branch. Instantly, it flared with blue spiritual energy. He thought to himself, I have heard that calligraphy is like swordsmanship, and I thought it was made up, but now I believe it. With a fierce swing, he slashed the branch through the air. The energy didn't just form a blade. It erupted into a massive, ink-black spectral dragon. He marveled. Although there are no direct descriptions of sword stances on the post, the words have been transformed into a sharp dragon. The sheer force of his swing sent a powerful shockwave through the courtyard, blasting golden leaves off the nearby trees. Ji Yuan twirled the branch with the grace of a master, a whirlwind of leaves dancing around his elegant movements. The little fox was so stunned by the display that its jaw dropped, a piece of meat tumbling right out of its mouth. Thrusting the branch toward the sky, Ji Yuan guided the swirling leaves, weaving them into the magnificent shape of a soaring dragon. Down in the town streets, the headband butcher and the shoppers looked up in absolute awe at the glowing leaf dragon illuminating the sky. Look, the butcher shouted. The women gasped, wow, it's beautiful. Back in the courtyard, Ji Yuan slowly brought the branch down, centering himself as the glowing leaves fluttered gently to the ground. He gazed at the branch, a faint image of the majestic blue dragon lingering behind him. He smiled confidently. Although I don't know where this post comes from, I'll just call it a dragon. In the days that followed, a peaceful routine settled in. The fully recovered red fox, now looking healthy and vibrant, sat by Ji Yuan, happily licking its paw. So far, the red fox has lived in the serene pavilion. And let me tell you, friends, this fox was living like a king. With a bulging, fat belly, it leaned back contentedly, surrounded by empty bowls of bones. Ji Yuan took care of it every day, providing poultry, medicinal food, and nourishing spiritual energy. Meanwhile, little Yin Xing would eagerly run into the courtyard to play with the fox, often accompanied by his father, Yin Zhaoxian, who would enjoy a quiet game of Weiqi with Ji Yuan. Time passed very quickly. 1 week later, a bright full moon hung high in the tranquil night sky. With a soft, graceful leap, the fox bounded up onto the tiled roof of the pavilion. It sat there quietly, its bright eyes reflecting the moonlight as it gazed out toward the distant mountains, perhaps thinking of its old home. But guys, suddenly a chilling voice echoed from behind the fox. Do you want to go back? The poor fox froze, sweat dripping down its face as pure terror washed over it. Under the quiet night sky, Ji Yuan walked peacefully along the rooftop, with the little red fox following closely behind his every step. He looked back at the small creature, his voice gentle. You belong to the mountains, he said softly, not within the city walls. You've been in the serene pavilion for so long, and your wounds have completely healed. The fox let out a soft whimper, curling up next to him. Ji Yuan gently stroked its fur and promised, I'll send you home tomorrow. Looking up at the starry sky, Ji Yuan smiled. You get to nourish in spiritual energy here every day. It's even better than cultivating in the mountains, isn't it? But guys, he knew balance was key. But we shouldn't be greedy, he added. The same is true for both humans and foxes. Staring out toward the distant peaks, Ji Yuan continued, I believe you yearn for the freedom in the wilderness more than you want to stay here. Look, friends, even though this little guy had developed intelligence, its animal instincts were still far stronger than its human nature. A small compound just wasn't where it belonged. Ji Yuan sighed softly. Sometimes, you have to give up on something in order to gain another. Not everything goes according to my wishes. What more for you? In the next scene, it was noon the following day at the Ningen Academy. Ji Yuan stood outside the large wooden doors of the academy, thinking to himself that class should be over by now. From his vantage point, he spotted young Yin Xing playing outside with his schoolmates. Ji Yuan figured since Yin Xing adored the red fox so much, it would be a great idea to bring him along to release it back into the mountains, even if the fox found the boy a little annoying. Suddenly, Yin Xing caught sight of him and waved excitedly. Mr. Ji Yuan approached the boy's father, Yin Zhaoxian, and politely explained his plan. Mr. Yin, I'm going to release the red fox back to the mountains, and I'd like to bring Yin Xing along. He assured the father they would be back in half a day. Mr. Yin looked a bit taken aback by the sudden request. Release it? He asked in surprise. Yin Xing tugged nervously at his clothes, looking up with wide, pleading eyes. He begged, Father. Seeing the excitement, Mr. Yin chuckled warmly. Since you invited him, I don't see a problem. Yin Xing immediately leaped into the air with joy, shouting, Hurrah! As Ji Yuan and Yin Qing walked off together, the father waved from the steps, calling out, "Be careful now." Watching them leave, Mr. Yin smiled to himself. He thought about how they had known each other for almost 3 months, and how admirable Mr. G's character and abilities truly were. But guys, nobody could have imagined this. Behind his composed teacher facade, Mr. Yin was practically crying tears of jealousy. He wailed internally, "I can't leave my students just like that. Mr. G, I want to tag along too." Later on, out in the lush mountain wilderness, a massive water wheel churned the river with a heavy clattering sound. Yin Qing stared in absolute awe, shouting, "Wow, that water wheel's so huge." Seeing the boy's excitement, Ji Yuan smiled fondly and told him, "Go ahead and play if you want." Without missing a beat, Yin Qing and the little red fox dashed into the shallow water, splashing around playfully. The fox bounded happily through the ripples, thoroughly enjoying the refreshing stream, while Yin Qing laughed, completely soaked. Suddenly, a large silver fish leaped right out of the water in front of them, making Yin Qing jump back in absolute shock. But Red Fox caught the fish easily, and boy was drenched in water. Happy moments, guys. As the afternoon slowly faded, the warm glow of the sunset bathed the mountain peaks. Ji Yuan sat barefoot by the edge of the stream, laughing warmly alongside Yin Qing and the happy little fox, enjoying the perfect, peaceful moment. Afterwards, as they walked along a shaded dirt path, Ji Yuan finally stopped. He looked down at the fox and said gently, "Let's part ways here." He offered a soft smile to the creature. "Go on, little fox. Farewell." Yin Qing looked heartbroken. "Me too. Don't you forget about me, little fox. Don't ever forget about me." Ji Yuan gently patted the boy's head and added, "Right, remember Yin Qing too." With a swift leap, the little red fox hopped onto a nearby gray boulder, preparing to head into the brush. But as it looked back at them, large, heavy tears welled up in its eyes. The little creature let out a heartbreaking whimper, completely unwilling to say goodbye. Yin Qing immediately noticed the tears and called out, "Mr. G, the little fox doesn't want to go." Ji Yuan turned around smoothly, his expression calm. He replied, "Maybe it wants to watch us as we leave." Then, Ji Yuan began walking away down the path, with Yin Qing running quickly to catch up. Unsurprisingly, guys, the little fox immediately hopped down and started following right behind them. Hearing the tiny footsteps, Ji Yuan stopped and glanced back over his shoulder. Both he and Yin Qing turned around to see the fox sitting obediently on the grass, looking up at them with those big, tearful eyes. Ji Yuan closed his eyes and let out a soft sigh. "Since we've known each other for some time, I'll give you a parting gift." He spoke with a profound, resonant tone. "Now that you've embarked on the path of cultivation, you're no longer an ignorant beast. You should have a name of your own." But guys, this is where the story gets interesting. With a warm gaze, Ji Yuan bestowed a tremendous honor upon the creature. "From now on, your name will be Hu Yun." Upon hearing its new name, the little fox climbed onto the rock and gracefully bowed its head. Yin Qing gasped in absolute amazement. "Look, Mr. G, the little fox really knows how to bow." Ji Yuan chuckled warmly, firmly taking Yin Qing's hand. "Ah, it's time to go home." Ji Yuan happily walking through town, carrying a sleeping Yin Qing securely on his back. As they arrive, Ji Yuan calls out, "Master Yin," from a group of cheerful, playing children. Yin Zhaoxian steps forward to gratefully take the boy. He smiled warmly. "Thank you, Mr. G, for carrying him all the way." Meanwhile, observing them from a nearby building are Xian Cheng and the wealthy merchant, Wei Wuwei. Xian Cheng's eyes narrow in deep thought as he watches Ji Yuan and Yin Zhaoxian walk away into the golden afternoon light. Curious, Wei Wuwei asks, "What are you looking at, Your Excellency?" Xian Cheng replies with a serious tone, "The man in the green shirt is a strange man in this county." Recalling the wild local tales, Xian Cheng mentions the bizarre rumors that Ji Yuan once made a red fox bow down for help, and even made evil dogs retreat just with the sound of his voice. Then, the tension breaks as Xian Cheng bursts into laughter. "Ha ha ha, the rumors of the marketplace, both true and false, must be exaggerated." But guys, his face quickly turns dead serious again. He added, "However, the county magistrate also said that this man was not a commonplace person." Afterwards, Xian Cheng respectfully sees Wei Wuwei off, suggesting that since it is getting late, he should get into his carriage for his journey. Just then, Ji Yuan pauses, his sharp eyes catching something odd as he lets out a soft hum. He watches closely as Wei Wuwei happily waves goodbye and climbs into his carriage. Look, guys, there's a mysterious bright blue light glowing right from Wei Wuwei's chest. Definitely not your average piece of jewelry. In the next scene, night falls completely over Ji Yuan's quiet residence, the serene pavilion. Ji Yuan, now dressed in dark stealth clothes, contemplates his next move. He thought, just now, the fat man seemed to have a vague aura in his collar. What extraordinary things should be on his body? I don't know if it has something to do with the cultivation of immortals. With a soft leap, he bounds gracefully across the rooftops, deciding it's better to confirm the mystery for himself. Meanwhile, Wei Wuwei's carriage travels cautiously down a dark, isolated forest path heavily escorted by guards holding torches. Ji Yuan hides quietly behind a tree, assessing the situation. He wonders if he should just go straight after them and have a friendly conversation, or take a stealthier approach. Suddenly, with a soft, sliding sound, dark, shadowy figures dart through the trees, heading straight for the carriage. Bandits leap aggressively from the sky, their swords glinting in the pale moonlight, completely ambushing the shocked driver. With a sharp hiss, a terrifying blade slices through the air, tearing the carriage roof apart and leaving Wei Wuwei trembling in absolute horror. One of the escort guards pulls his reins in a panic and shouts, "Not good. They're strong people." A brave guard charges forward on his horse to defend his master, but the bandit just lets out a menacing, cold laugh. With a fierce, glowing glare, the bandit swings his massive sword, unleashing a terrifying wave of energy. A devastating strike hits the guard mid-air, leaving a crimson mark as the man cries out in agony. Another guard is violently struck down. He screams in terror that the attacker is Xiang Feng, one of the infamous 13 thieves of Yendi. A desperate guard swings his blazing torch with all his might, yelling, "Evil thief, give me your life." Now, honestly, anyone would panic here. Wei Wuwei cowers inside the broken carriage, frantically screaming at his men to hurry up and protect him. But guys, the defense crumbles as the last guard is sent flying, hitting the ground with a heavy thud. Xiang Feng points his cold steel right at the terrified master's face. He demands the legendary blue jade that the Wei family supposedly passes down to protect against evil. Sweat pouring down his pale face, Wei Wuwei stutters desperately that the blue jade is actually just an ordinary ancestral pendant with nothing miraculous about it. Stepping confidently over a defeated guard, Xiang Feng coldly tells him that he can answer when he has had time to think about it. Completely desperate, Wei Wuwei begs for his life, offering to give him all his money and jewels instead. Xiang Feng's lips curl into a wicked, greedy smirk. "Of course I want it all." Wei Wuwei falls back onto the carriage floor, waving his hands defensively. He stammers that the blue jade won't be inherited until the family banquet next month, so he doesn't even have it with him. Xiang Feng presses the cold blade dangerously close, his eyes practically glowing with lethal intent. Do you want to die?" Wei Wuwei immediately caves under the immense pressure. Frantically pulling the necklace from his robes, he shouts that he has the blue jade. His trembling hands hold up the perfectly round, glowing blue jade pendant, offering it up to the ruthless bandit. Watching intently from the shadows, Ji Yuan realizes this is exactly the extraordinary item he sensed earlier. He narrows his eyes, thinking, "It's time for me to do something." Xiang Feng eagerly reaches out, a triumphant grin spreading across his scarred face as he finally claims the precious jade. But guys, the real twist hasn't even started yet. Suddenly, Wei Wuwei's eyes glow with a terrifying white light, and he launches a surprisingly powerful, rapid-fire counterattack. Just then, a barrage of sharp impacts struck Xiang Feng, forcing him back with a sharp hiss. Suddenly, Wei Wuwei charged forward, his eyes glowing with an intense, unexpected power. With a heavy thud, Wei Wuwei landed a devastating blow right into the bandit's chest. Xiang Feng was sent flying backward as his subordinates screamed out for their brother in panic. Then, Wei Wuwei leaped high into the air, radiating pure energy, leaving the remaining bandits completely terrified. The impact left a devastating mark as Xiang Feng crashed hard against a tree trunk, a crimson mist filling the air. Meanwhile, watching from the shadows, Ji Yuan thought, "I didn't expect this Wei to pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger." Xiang Feng clutched his chest, struggling for breath. He gasped that he couldn't breathe, realizing those 3 needles were poisoned. Shocked by the revelation, Xiang Feng stuttered, asking how Wei Wuwei knew martial arts. Wei Wuwei just smiled and said, surprised, "Hey, love to see your reluctant face." Wei Wuwei loomed over him menacingly. "I'll give you a chance to live. Tell me, who told you about the blue jade? Is that the person who told you that the Fan family has a sword in tent post?" Despite his injuries, Xiang Feng managed a weak smirk. He coughed and asked if Wei Wuwei would really let him go if he confessed. Wei Wuwei stood tall and declared, "I'm not like you scum. I'm open and honest. I always keep my word." Trust me, guys, anyone claiming to be open and honest in a martial arts world is definitely plotting something. Ji Yuan sweated nervously and thought, "Damn honest and open, it's really dangerous in the world. It's crazy to believe you." Wei Wuwei cracked his knuckles with a menacing aura. "It seems that you will not be able to recruit without making you suffer a bit." Suddenly, a sharp shuriken sliced through the air with a deadly hiss. Wei Wuwei dodged backward, just in time as the projectile struck the ground with a sharp snap. At this time, a mysterious ninja boss descended silently from the sky, his dark clothes fluttering in the night breeze. Wei Wuwei broke into a cold sweat. He thought, this light work. There are still such masters. Why don't they come out to besiege from the beginning? The ninja boss glared down at the defeated bandit. "The last time you lost the sword and tent post, this time you fell into his hands again. The 13 thieves of Yendi are really a waste, and I have to do it myself." The ninja boss lunged directly at Wei Wuwei with terrifying speed. Wei Wuwei cried out in agony as the strike pierced right through his defense, sending a crimson mist spraying into the night. Seeing a fatal claw attack coming right for his face, Wei Wuwei panicked. He thought, damn it, I'm afraid I won't be able to leave today. I am dead. Just then, Ji Yuan leaped from the shadows, blocking the deadly strike with a heavy clash. Ji Yuan's eyes narrowed behind his mask. He thought, these martial artists are really dangerous. We can't be careless. We have to do our best. He quickly calculated his next move. He thought, now, without weapons, we can only use the punch and claw techniques in the Iron Torture Warfare Manual. The two warriors engaged in a rapid exchange of blows. The ninja boss thought, what is this strange thing? Not only can his eyes not keep up with his attack, but every blow is like hitting an iron pillar. Ji Yuan pressed the advantage. The Ji Yuan thought in panic, body law can't keep up with me. With a soft sliding sound, the ninja boss desperately tried to retreat. But suddenly, Ji Yuan was already right above him, grabbing his arm with an unbreakable grip. With a sickening crack, the joint gave way. The ninja boss screamed in absolute agony. Sweat poured down the assassin's face as he realized his left arm was completely dislocated. Ji Yuan didn't hesitate for a single second. He thought, it's not over yet. There is still the right side of. In the next scene, another sharp snap echoed through the forest as Ji Yuan ruthlessly dislocated the other arm. Ji Yuan scrambled back gently. Ninja boss completely stunned. He stuttered in disbelief, realizing Ji Yuan just used the iron torture technique. Xiang Feng watched the entire exchange, completely mind-blown. He stuttered, muttering about his mightiness. Still in shock, Xiang Feng stuttered, wondering exactly which public expert this mysterious warrior was. Come on, guys. Our protagonist's master plan always has a tiny flaw. Ji Yuan sweated nervously under his mask. He thought, hey, I thought it was a high-ranking court official who used the iron torture technique, so I wouldn't be exposed. Realizing he was completely outmatched, the ninja boss pleaded, my life is in your hands, but you only have to be willing to let go of, you can enjoy all the glory and wealth, high officials and generous wealth. Ji Yuan just stared back at him, completely silent and unfazed. Desperate to save himself, the ninja boss offered everything, even arrogantly looked down upon the world and become immortal. Ji Yuan scoffed, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked down at the defeated ninja boss. He questioned sharply, immortality? How can you try to trick me with such nonsense? I'm using the true chi of the iron torture technique to see through your lies. Sweating under the intense pressure, Zhang Qinxiu replied desperately, the trail of immortality is indistinct. However, it is not without a trace. It is said that the left madman has broken through martial arts and entered the Tao. He pointed a trembling finger. If you don't believe me, ask Wei Wuwei. The origin of this blue jade is not ordinary. Ji Yuan turned his calm gaze toward the trembling master of the carriage. Master Wei, he asked, why do they want to rob you of the blue jade? Wei Wuwei swallowed hard, stammering out a hesitant well. Finally finding his voice, Wei Wuwei explained, a crane, which returned with the jade in its mouth, gave it to my ancestor as a token of gratitude. This blue jade has been handed down from generation to generation, and now it is in my hands. He wiped his brow. It is said to be able to ward off evil spirits, but this is only a rumor. Wei Wuwei sighed deeply, adding, moreover, the matter of becoming an immortal is too illusory. Back then, Dajin Jingyuan spent half a lifetime looking for immortals and Taoism, but ended up meeting a gloomy, premature death. He looked down at the defeated ninja. Even the madman, who was known as the Sword Immortal, also passed away from deep resentment, didn't he? Ji Yuan remained completely silent, his expression unreadable behind his dark mask as he processed the tragic history. But guys, the ninja boss wasn't done yet. Zhang Qinxiu fiercely interrupted. With no wind and no rain, the lake of Guangdong was flooded with water for 30 miles. The swordsman Du Yutian vanquished a spectral threat after drinking, and the frost on his sword did not recede for 3 days. He glared intensely at the older man. There is also the case of the smiling Rakshasa, who dreamed of the city god of the north in the night and changed her name. These are not just rumors. Zhang Qinxiu gritted his teeth. Wei Wuwei, you dare to say that there are no immortals in this world? Breathing heavily, the defeated man finally revealed his identity. My name is Zhang Qinxiu, sir. 5 years ago, I broke a jar of aged wine at the edge of the Chunmu River and attracted a giant black-backed turtle. He continued, his voice trembling with absolute awe. This giant tortoise spoke with a human voice and asked me for good wine to offer to the god of the river Chunmu. Zhang Qinxiu's eyes were wide with desperation. From then on May 15th every year, I go to the riverside to deliver wine. This matter is absolutely true, and there is absolutely no falsehood. Ji Yuan raised an eyebrow, not fully buying the story. It sounds like a heavy exaggeration, he stated coldly. But continue. Zhang Qinxiu quickly nodded. The giant tortoise told me that there were 3 places where I could obtain an immortal destiny. The first is a sword intent post, hidden in the Fan family's house of Dingyuan Mansion. The old turtle said that the long sword, Qing Ing, was a spiritual and natural thing, and that I would have the chance to obtain it. He glanced over at Wei Wuwei. The second is the Wei family's ancestral blue jade. The third one, Zheng added, is an immortal land in Tongzhou, thousands of miles away. He looked up at Ji Yuan, pleading, "Please let me go. I will tell you how to use this blue jade to seek immortality after I am healed." Ji Yuan's piercing gaze bore into the desperate ninja boss, silently calculating the weight of his words. Suddenly, Wei Wuwei panicked, holding up the precious blue jade above his head. "My lord, you will not believe the nonsense of these sinister bandits, will you?" he cried out. "You saved my life, Wei Wuwei, and this blue jade is not as good as my gift to you. But this man has not only spoken pure arrogance, he has also caused unimaginable devastation, which cannot be forgiven by the law. Look, I'm telling you guys, Wei Wuwei is terrified of becoming a target. He's practically throwing his family heirloom away to save his own skin." He squeezed his eyes shut, trembling as sweat poured down his wrinkled face. He thought to himself, "I really don't want to hand it over, but just in case, I'm afraid I'll lose my life." Ji Yuan stared down at the mystical blue jade resting in Wei Wuwei's shaking palm. He admitted softly, "It's really an exciting prospect, but..." Meanwhile, Ji Yuan noticed the dark aura swirling around the defeated Zheng Qianxiu. The ninja boss was practically overflowing with intense hostility and dark ambition. Ji Yuan analyzed the situation carefully. Wei Wuwei was clearly not a fighter and definitely had something to hide. Was it really necessary to force the issue of this so-called immortal fate and then permanently silence everyone involved? Ji Yuan scoffed at the very idea. "Am I that kind of person?" he thought to himself. "I taught a ferocious tiger how to act humane and taught a little fox that one cannot live with greed. You want to be an immortal, so you do absolutely everything you can, no matter the cost." A faint smile touched his lips. How ridiculous! Looking up towards the night sky, Ji Yuan's inner voice carried a profound clarity. An immortal should be free. They should be able to laugh and feel sorrow when seeing the warmth and coldness of humanity. Plus, he already had the legendary sword intent post safely in his own possession anyway. With a gentle tapping motion, Ji Yuan reached out and firmly pushed the blue jade back toward Wei Wuwei. Ji Yuan chuckled, lightly tossing the pendant back into the air. "Master Wei, this blue jade is the treasure for the path to immortality, and you just want to hand it to me like this? Do you really want to repay me, or are you just afraid that I will do something to you?" Wei Wuwei caught it, stammering out a defense. "I won't lie. I'm deeply greedy for life and terrified of death. But I am not so wicked as to judge a gentleman's heart with the mind of a villain." He added, "I sincerely want to give you the jade pendant, and besides, being an immortal is not as free as I am to enjoy glory and wealth." Hearing the old man's honest, terrified confession, Ji Yuan threw his head back and burst into a loud, genuine roar of laughter. Still smiling, Ji Yuan tossed the jade directly into Wei Wuwei's trembling hands without even looking back. "I only passed by this place on my way to investigate a case," he stated smoothly, "and I have been delayed here long enough." With a swift, graceful leap, Ji Yuan's feet pushed off the grass. He soared effortlessly into the night sky, calling back to the stunned carriage master, "Please make sure to hand over some of these criminals to the government. Master Wei." Wei Wuwei watched the mysterious savior fly off like a true immortal, frantically shouting out, "Wait, I don't even know your surname yet." His voice echoed through the silent forest, leaving him standing amidst the fallen guards and groaning bandits, completely in awe. Sometime later, with a light landing, Ji Yuan arrived back at the safety of his own courtyard at the Serene Pavilion. He immediately went inside and unrolled the mysterious item everyone had been fighting over, the legendary sword intent post. Ji Yuan rubbed his chin, deep in thought. "I've already read through this thing, and I haven't found a single clue to any tomb," he muttered to himself. "Does it need to be soaked in water? Or maybe held over fire?" He carefully touched the edge of the scroll. "No, it's just ordinary rice paper. It definitely couldn't withstand that kind of torment." He sighed. "I guess I just have to look at the actual content." As he focused, magnificent blue characters suddenly peeled off the paper and floated in the air around him. Ji Yuan was mesmerized. "With my blurry eyesight, I can't even read ordinary books clearly," he whispered. "But somehow, I can completely understand the deep essence of this sword intent." A wave of melancholy washed over him as he read the profound, tragic history embedded in the magical words. It truly is a pity that the madman who wrote this passed away over 10 years ago. Guided by the floating characters, Ji Yuan instinctively began moving. His arms flowed through complex, graceful martial arts forms, following the phantom sword strikes hidden within the text. "But where's the mystery at the end?" he questioned, his movements speeding up. Suddenly, a surge of realization hit him. Forming his fingers into a sword shape, he slashed the air with a sharp, blinding wave of energy. What happens next will completely shock you guys. The chaotic energy violently erupted, swirling and weaving together in the air until it formed a massive, intricate glowing projection. Ji Yuan's eyes widened in sheer disbelief as he gasped. Nonsense! Is this a map? He got excited. It is possible. If it wasn't for my unparalleled talent, this secret might not be deciphered, even if eyes rotten. It is really worthy of the word madman. A confident, excited smile spread across his face as he carefully rolled the scroll back up. Staring into the starry night, he thought, I don't know what my chances will be if I try to take the long sword of Qingying, but I'm really looking forward to finding out. Friends, inside the dim prison cell, the captured thieves sat bound and gagged on the cold floor. Looking at them, the county lieutenant spoke up, Master Wei, thanks to you, I have been up all night. Wei Wuwei then turned to the bandits and said apologetically, I'm sorry for all of you, but I had no choice but to ask for help when I was attacked halfway. The lieutenant waved his hand dismissively through the wooden bars. Okay, it is a matter of course. I just grumbled, but Master Wei laughed. As they walked up the stone stairs, the Wei offered, I've already ordered a lot of food in the outer building of the temple. It will be delivered later as a treat for you all. Lieutenant respectfully replied, Master Wei is very kind. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. Wei asked, do you know a man named Ji Yuan in your county? Lieutenant paused thoughtfully. Mr. Ji? Yes, I know him. Do you have an old relationship? Wei waved his hand and said, no. I heard that the Red Fox was worshipping and wanted to meet this strange man, Mr. Ji. Meanwhile, walking through the bright courtyard, the lieutenant explained there were many people who wanted to visit him, but the only one who dared to go was Mr. Yin of this county. Intrigued, Wei Wuwei asked, oh, is it possible that this Mr. Ji is very bad-tempered? The lieutenant laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. Mr. Ji was always humble and polite to everyone, and no one ever saw him angry. He then sighed heavily. No one came to visit because his residence was a famous haunted house in the county. Many things happened in a few years. Wei thought, how dare he live there? Lieutenant thoughtfully rubbed his chin and continued. Oddly enough, nothing strange happened to Mr. Ji after he moved in, and the Yin family was fine, but still no one ventured to visit. He then added, if you want to meet Mr. Ji for a chat, you can meet him in the market. Wei Wuwei stopped and bowed respectfully. I would also like to ask the lieutenant to tell me where Mr. Ji is staying. The lieutenant nodded kindly. For trivial matters, I can send someone to lead you there. Afterwards, the two men continued walking down the quiet stone alleyway, as the lieutenant affirmed, yes. Wei Wuwei asked, what is this scent, sir? Suddenly, the lieutenant stopped in his tracks, looking completely surprised. He pointed ahead. This is the fragrance of juju blossoms in the courtyard, the only one of its kind in Ning'an County. Wei asked, how can the juju blossoms smell so good? He turned to Wei Wuwei, whispering in sheer disbelief. Hey, Mr. Ji is a strange man. In the past, the square didn't smell like this. Wei thought, I am also a person who has seen people in the world, and I have never heard of the fragrance of juju flowers. As they reached the entrance, glowing green leaves gently drifted down from the massive tree. The lieutenant smiled awkwardly. Now that the yard has those glowing jujube trees, I will not go there anymore. Wei Wuwei bowed slightly. Okay, thank you. With a heavy thud, Wei Wuwei nervously knocked on the solid wooden door. Meanwhile, inside the serene courtyard, young Yinqing rested his chin in his hands, watching a game of Weiqi with wide, curious eyes. Ji Yuan, looking completely relaxed, placed a white stone on the board with a sharp click. He smiled gently and said, a guest arrived outside the door. The heavy knocking echoed again. A voice called out, is Mr. Ji here? Both Yin Zhaoxian and Yinqing looked up, startled by the sudden visitor. Ji Yuan's eyes widened slightly as he instantly recognized the presence. He thought to himself, Wei Wuwei. Ji Yuan called out calmly, Xiao Yinqing, can you open a door for me? The boy cheerfully yelled back, all right, and excitedly jumped up and sprinted toward the entrance. With a creak, the door opened to reveal a smiling Wei Wuwei. Yinqing greeted him politely. Come in, do you want me to help you get things? Wei Wuwei waved his hands. No need, I will do it myself. As Wei Wuwei stepped inside, he saw Ji Yuan sitting peacefully at the stone table under the beautiful, glowing jujube tree, playing Weiqi with Yin Zhaoxian. Wei Wuwei's eyes widened in absolute awe as he took in the breathtaking atmosphere. He breathed out, great view. He respectfully approached the table, holding a wrapped package. Mr. Ji, I only brought some cakes in my haste to visit, a little thought. Ji Yuan looked at him calmly and asked, I don't know why Mr. Wei came here. As Wei Wuwei untied the red strings of the box, he nervously admitted, to be honest, when I heard about the Red Fox kowtow, I felt very strange. He bowed deeply, his face tense with desperation. I still have this type of doubt in my mind, and I have not been able to solve it for a long time, and want to ask Mr. Ji for advice. Look, I'm telling you guys, you can't just go asking about magical secrets like it is a casual weather chat. Just then, Yinqing cheerfully chimed in, raising a finger. Yes, Mr. Ji was very good, and yesterday, we let the little fox go back to the mountain together. After Mr. Ji gave the young fox his name, it kept on worshipping him. Yin Zhaoxian's face went pale. He quickly scolded his son, Qing heir. He remembered that the father firmly grabbed Yin Qing by the shoulders, sweating nervously. He realized the boy was speaking way too freely about dangerous supernatural matters. He thought to himself, Mr. G didn't refuse to say that, and I didn't ask myself a lot of questions last night. But guys, Ji Yuan simply smiled warmly and waved it off. It doesn't matter. He gestured to an empty stone stool. Mr. Wei, come sit down and talk about what you don't understand. Wei Wuwei slowly sat down, clutching his hands anxiously. He nervously agreed. Okay. As the saying goes, there is no taboo in children's words, so it seems that all those strange stories are true. Sweating profusely, Wei Wuwei leaned in and asked the ultimate question. Mr. G, are there really demons and ghosts in this world, and is there really a way to seek immortality? Ji Yuan calmly closed his eyes, an enigmatic smile forming on his lips, and answered softly, yes. Suddenly, Yin Zhaoxian gasped in pure shock. Then he recalled the face of the town guardian statue. Yin Qing interrupted his father's existential crisis, pointing at the board. Dad, it is your turn. Yin Zhaoxian aggressively snapped back. What do you know, you little boy? This is called thinking carefully about the chess road. Now, honestly, anyone would panic here. In the next scene, Wei Wuwei carefully presented a smooth blue stone. Mr. G, I have an ancestral jade, which is said to be a gift from a crane, but there is no magic. Can you take a look at it? Ji Yuan calmly replied. Let me see. Ji Yuan took the jade, examining it closely with a pleased expression. He thought to himself, I didn't take a closer look yesterday and didn't expect Wei Wuwei to show it to me today. The world is really amazing. As Ji Yuan held the jade up, streaks of mystical blue energy began to crackle and flow from his fingers, surging directly into the stone like lightning. Yin Qing, Yin Zhaoxian, and Wei Wuwei all stared in absolute, jaw-dropping shock. Yin Qing gasped loudly, wow. The blue jade began to glow intensely, radiating ethereal flames as ancient magical characters materialized within the bright light. Ji Yuan looked up, his eyes bright with profound understanding, and stated clearly, originally, it was Yu Huai Mountain. Wei Wuwei's face flushed bright red, completely overwhelmed with emotion. Trembling, he excitedly declared, it has been passed down from generation to generation in my Wei family, and is truly a treasure. There's a chance of immortality inside. Friends, Ji Yuan closely examines the glowing blue jade. He notes confidently that there is surely something hidden inside it. He turns to Wei Wuwei, explaining that the moment the aura is absorbed, a weak magnetic force points directly toward him. He adds that even if someone managed to snatch the blue jade away, they still wouldn't be able to achieve an immortal destiny. Ji Yuan gently places the precious stone back into Wei Wuwei's open hands. Seeing this, Wei Wuwei nervously asks if Yu Huai Mountain is the true home of an immortal. Ji Yuan admits he has never seen Jade Huaishan before. Holding his hands out with utmost reverence, Wei Wuwei practically begged Ji Yuan to enlighten him on how the Wei family can use this artifact to find their destined path. A bead of sweat rolls down Ji Yuan's face as he seriously states that he only heard the name of the mountain from the town guardian. Placing a go piece on the board, Ji Yuan humbly claims to be nothing more than an ordinary man with slightly wider vision. He mentions the mountain is located in the northern part of Jizhou and decides to end his advice there, wishing Mr. Wei well. Look, I'm telling you guys, Ji Yuan calling himself an ordinary man is the biggest understatement of the century. Filled with immense gratitude, Wei Wuwei bows deeply, pressing his hands together. He vows that his family will never forget the kindness of Mr. G's lecture today. Leaving behind a beautiful green jade dragon pendant on the stone table, the merchant insists that if Ji Yuan ever needs anything in the future, he shouldn't hesitate to ask. Wei Wuwei bows one last time and bids his farewell, leaving Ji Yuan sitting calmly by the table. Afterwards, little Yin Qing stands quietly in the courtyard, watching the merchant's retreating figure. The boy then approaches the table, leaning curiously against the go board. He asks if Ji Yuan truly doesn't know where the Yu Huai Mountain is, admitting with wide eyes that he has never seen a god before. Holding a beautifully tied pastry box, Ji Yuan smiles warmly. He replies that he also wants to see what the gods are like, assuring Yin Qing that he has never lied to him. But Yin Qing playfully pouts, pointing out they've only known each other for a few months. Just then, his father, Yin Zhaoxian, storms in, strictly calling out his son's name. Yin Zhaoxian crosses his arms and closes his eyes, firmly lecturing the boy. He emphasizes that Mr. G's words are true and reminds him not to forget their etiquette or hurt others with careless words. To lighten the mood, the box of exquisite pastries from the temple is opened. Yin Zhaoxian cheerfully suggests they don't waste the cakes and share them together, noting that respect is better than fate. As they snack and continue their game of Go, Ji Yuan expresses his deep admiration for Yin Zhaoxian's self-restraint and adherence to rituals, admitting he has learned a lot from him. Suddenly, Ji Yuan stands up, gracefully brushing off his robes. He calmly announces that he will be leaving Ning'an for a long trip soon. Startled, Yin Zhaoxian freezes, a white go piece hovering in his hand. He quickly asks when his friend intends to depart. Gazing thoughtfully into the distance, Ji Yuan admits he isn't sure yet. Perhaps tomorrow, or in a few days. He mentions needing to ask the Old Town Guardian for maps and to say his goodbyes along the way. Hearing this, Yin Qing looks visibly heartbroken, clutching a half-eaten pastry, while his father maintains a solemn, heavy expression. Dropping his black stones back into the wooden bowl, Yin Zhaoxian respectfully states he won't ask too many questions. He warmly offers to see Ji Yuan off if permitted, otherwise wishing him a very safe journey. Clasping his hands in a traditional salute, Ji Yuan smiles and sincerely thanks Master Yin for his boundless kindness. Looking up at the lush green canopy, Ji Yuan laments that he won't be able to eat the jujubes this year, asking Yin Zhaoxian to share the ripe fruits with the neighborhood. Bowing respectfully from behind, Yin assures him it will be done. In the next scene, the early morning light washes over fallen autumn leaves and fresh flowers scattered across the grass. Ji Yuan stands beneath the vibrant, fruit-filled branches. He remarks beautifully on how the sudden autumn wind has filled the garden with fruits, quietly giving his thanks. Touching his chin thoughtfully, he considers leaving something behind for the Yin family, uncertain of how long his journey will actually take. Ji Yuan summons a massive, glowing spectral brush, sweeping it dynamically across the air to leave a magical parting message. Later that day, Yin Qing runs excitedly toward his father, holding an envelope high in the air. He shouts that Mr. Ji left a letter on the door. Holding the simple envelope, Yin Zhaoxian wonders sadly if his friend truly left without a final, proper goodbye. As he reads, Ji Yuan's poetic words fill his mind. The letter speaks of their fateful meeting after the rainy season and praises Yin Zhaoxian as his only true friend in the county. The letter continues, commending Yin's profound wisdom, his clear desire for the right path, and his peaceful nature, stating elegantly that the sky is never clear without a bright moon. Standing on a rocky cliff under the night sky, gripping his wooden umbrella, Ji Yuan's written words promise that they will eventually meet again to sit down and play chess once more. Closing his eyes, Yin Zhaoxian is deeply moved by Ji Yuan's final wishes. The letter hopes that Yin will educate the people carefully, write a legendary book, and inspire a whole generation of great scholars. Standing on his porch with the letter in hand, leaves blowing gently around him, Yin Zhaoxian softly whispers his dear friend's name. Meanwhile, far away, a brilliant blue aura suddenly swirls around Ji Yuan's hand. Ji Yuan stares in utter confusion at a brilliantly glowing white gold piece resting in his palm. He stuttered, asking what the situation was. Realization suddenly washes over his face. He realizes that the letter he left behind must have had a profound, spiritual impact on Master Yin. Looking out over the sprawling, majestic landscape of the city, his robes fluttering fiercely in the wind, Ji Yuan raises his umbrella high. He softly bids farewell to his friend, ready to face whatever comes next. Yin Zhaoxian looked back at his son, a hint of surprise in his voice. He said, "Qing, Mr. Ji has left." Holding up a heavy iron key, he smiled warmly. "Let's help Mr. Ji clean up the yard later." But as they stepped into the courtyard, both father and son froze, staring upward in complete disbelief. Right before their eyes was a massive jujube tree, its branches heavily burdened with plump, glowing fruits. Little Qing gasped, "Wow, what a big jujube." Yin Zhaoxian leaned in closely, utterly amazed. "The day before yesterday, I heard Mr. Ji sighing, and the next night we had a lot of fruits. What a miracle." Meanwhile, the morning sun illuminated the bustling town streets, where the local noodle stall was already serving hungry customers. Yin Zhaoxian arrived at the stall carrying a woven basket. Mr. Sun, the cheerful cook, greeted him. "Mr. Yin is here for breakfast? We have good wontons and yanchun noodles." Yin Zhaoxian gently waved his hand. No, I've already used it at home." He lowered the basket, revealing the perfectly ripe, gleaming jujubes. "This is the fruit of Mr. Ji's family's jujube tree, which he said he would give to his neighbors before he left home." Mr. Sun was genuinely touched. He stuttered, "How is this so thoughtful? Mr. Ji has gone out? When will he come back?" Yin Zhaoxian softly replied, "I don't know yet." Turning to leave, Yin Zhaoxian smiled. "I won't bother you, you are busy." Mr. Sun waved back happily. "Hey, Master Yin, go slowly." Just then, two townsmen eating at the stall noticed the vibrant fruit. The slender man eagerly asked, "Old man's son, what kind of fruit is this?" "Yes, can you let me taste it?" With a soft thud, a plump jujube was placed onto the wooden table. The townsmen took a bite, their eyes widening in sheer amazement. "Amazing, are these jujube?" They were completely mesmerized. The plump man drooled, mumbling, "This peculiar smell? It's so good. Look, I'm telling you guys, Ji Yuan's magic fruits could probably win a culinary award in this era." As time passed, the town buzzed with excitement. The jujube trees in Jiuanxiaoga had ripened ahead of schedule, and the taste was so memorable that all the residents talked about it. At this time, far away from the town, Ji Yuan was walking on the dirt road towards Chunhui Mansion City, enjoying the peaceful scenery. He opened a beautifully carved wooden map, a satisfied smile on his face. The old city god is very efficient, and a carved map is much better than I expected. He traced his finger along the grooves. Go north out of Ning'an County, and then go east. This is the Chunmu River, and a boat ride will take you to the city of Chunhui. Packing the map away, he thought aloud. According to the description of the sword intent post, the tomb of the great warriors Wa is far away in Ijo, so we can't get there in a while. Let's come slowly. He smiled. Let's see if we can find the old turtle in Chunmu River. Suddenly, with a sharp dash, he launched himself forward. Let's go. He moved with incredible, phantom-like speed, effortlessly zooming past a startled horse-car driver on the dusty road. Afterwards, the bright day faded into a misty, moonlit night along the shadowy riverbanks. Ji Yuan's solitary walk was interrupted when 3 figures emerged from the gloom. 2 sturdy men holding lanterns and a frail-looking elder. The men demanded, "Who are you?" The elder, keeping his eyes tightly shut, asked sharply, "What are you doing here?" Ji Yuan calmly stopped, leaning on his umbrella with a polite smile. "Hello, old man. I'm only a passerby here." The elder seemed slightly taken aback. "Your eyes, sir." Playing the helpless wanderer, Ji Yuan replied, "My eyes are really not good, and I can't walk at night, so I hope you can let me stay overnight." The old man leaned in close, inspecting him carefully in the lantern light. He muttered, "White pupils." His gaze drifted downwards to the dirt path. There's also a shadow under the feet. Satisfied that Ji Yuan wasn't a malicious spirit, the elder finally relaxed. "Okay, this, sir. Come with me." Yi Yuan booed deeply. "Thank you, everyone." In his mind, he playfully cheered, "Woo. Life is like a play. It all depends on acting." With a heavy, echoing creak, the large wooden gates of the village slowly opened. But guys, this is where the story gets interesting. The elder suddenly stepped close and firmly grabbed Ji Yuan's wrist. "Come in, sir. The old man will give you a hand." Ji Yuan tensed up, feeling the strange, lingering grip. He thought, "Is this old man taking my temperature?" Guiding him inside, the elder offered, "Sir, come sit with me in the house and have a drink." Ji Yuan cautiously replied, Yes." As soon as he crossed the threshold, the 2 young men slammed the heavy gates shut behind him. Ji Yuan's eyes darted around the ominous surroundings. He thought nervously, "What is going on in this village? It feels weird." A soft flame illuminated the dim room, as an oil lamp was carefully lit. Grandpa Pulsechecker guided Ji Yuan into a humble guest room, gesturing politely toward the table. "This house is for the temporary accommodation of the people at the entrance of the village," he explained, "so please stay here for the night." Ji Yuan nodded appreciatively, replying, "Good, thank you." As the old man poured him a warm bowl of tea, he asked curiously, "Please sit down, sir. I don't know your family name. Where do you live?" Ji Yuan replied smoothly, "My name is Ji, and I am a native of Ning'an County." Handing over the tea, Grandpa Pulsechecker asked with a faint smirk, "Did I just make you laugh?" Then he shared an old saying. As the old saying goes, a living man with a shadow and warmth is a living man, and one should not turn back when called by name at night. Taking the cup, Ji Yuan smiled warmly and said, "It doesn't get in the way. There's nothing wrong with being careful." But guys, this is where the conversation took a weird turn. The old man's face suddenly went entirely pale as he asked, "Sir, are you a ghost?" Ji Yuan was so caught off guard by the sheer absurdity that he violently spat out his mouthful of tea. Wiping his mouth with an awkward laugh, Ji Yuan quickly clarified, Ahem, ahem. I'm not a ghost, of course. Trust me, guys, no one wants to be mistaken for a wandering spirit." Hearing this, the old man sighed in deep relief. "No wonder," he muttered. "I suddenly thought of something and wanted to confirm it." Ji Yuan glanced toward the moonlight shining through the window, feeling a bit amused. "Didn't you take my pulse earlier?" he pointed out. "It is also said that some people are dead, but they don't know it, and need to explain it in front of him." Curious about the village's paranoid behavior, Ji Yuan leaned in. "Old man, are you often haunted here?" The elder's expression grew grim as he whispered, "We used to have a beauty snake here. This season, into the night, we cannot go out." "Not at all." The Lantern and Ho brothers chimed in from the doorway, looking dead serious. "Well, it is said to be a big snake with a beautiful head," one of the guards explained. "They like to trick young and strong men into eating them." Ji Yuan couldn't help but chuckle. "Old man, don't fool me," he countered smoothly. "If it can talk and has the ability to speak, like Lu Shanjun, ordinary people couldn't guard against it anyway." But the old man was not joking around. As he fluffed a pillow to prepare the bed, he replied defensively, "Hey, this matter was passed to the Suiyuan County government before. Everyone panicked for a long time. How could they lie to you?" "Old man's house," he asked. "Isn't this Shunbao County?" The old man shook his head while patting the blanket. "You passed Shunbao a long time ago. Here is Hegu Village in Suiyuan County." Ji Yuan stared blankly, a glowing digital map literally flashing in his mind. He had walked through 2 entire counties without realizing it. He thought to himself in shock. "I underestimated my current foot strength. I really miss the navigation of the mobile phone. I can't locate the map in real time. Look, even in a mystical ancient world, the struggle without GPS is real." Afterwards, Ji Yuan finally settled in a bed, pulling the covers up to try and get some much-needed rest. Suddenly, his eyes shot open. A cacophony of frantic barking echoed through the night. It is said that the eyes of dogs are psychic, he thought, his brow furrowing with concern. The dogs are gathered together and barking in one direction. I'm a little worried. There's a city god in this county, right? Do you still care about this area? Meanwhile, outside in the damp grass, a massive, scaly serpent slithered silently through the darkness. The terrifying silhouette of the giant snake rose against the moonlit sky, its glowing cyan eye looming over the quiet village rooftops. Sensing the unnatural disturbance, a rooster perched nearby began to crow loudly into the night. Not far away, Mr. Midnight P woke up from his slumber, stepping outside with a massive yawn, completely oblivious to the danger lurking nearby. He looked extremely annoyed as the neighborhood dogs aggressively barked and snarled at the shadows, ruining his sleep. Furious at the noise, he grabbed a handful of rocks and hurled them at the poor hounds. "What are you yelling at?" he shouted angrily. "If you dare to scream, I'll end you and make a dog stew." Back in the guest room, Ji Yuan sat up completely. The dog barking does not subside, he noted, sensing the tension in the air, but more and more aggressive barking. Deciding he couldn't just ignore it, he threw off the blankets. "Let's go check it out," he resolved, slipping out of bed. With a soft snap of his fingers, a magical spark ignited, instantly lighting the oil lamp. He quickly summoned a swirling stream of fire with his mystical arts, preparing himself for whatever was out there. Walking out with a confident, dramatic stride, his eyes sharp and determined, Ji Yuan thought, "I want to see what it is. What happens next will completely shock you guys." In the next scene, a soft splashing sound echoed near the village pond. It was just Mr. Midnight P, standing by the water's edge, loudly yawning while he leisurely relieved himself right into the pond. Now, honestly, anyone would panic here if they knew what was in the water. Suddenly, he heard a strange rustling noise from the dark water and froze completely in place. Sweating nervously, he peered into the murky depths. "Is it a fish nesting?" he muttered, trying to logically reassure himself. Turning away in disgust, someone grumbled, "Oops, it's so dirty. I hate it." But guys, nobody could have imagined this. From the rippling water emerged the beauty snake demon, looking less like a terrifying monster and more like a deeply flustered girl. "Hey, she shrieked, blushing brightly as she covered her bare shoulders. "Ah, what are you looking at? Don't look." The poor man's jaw dropped in absolute shock.